Here we are, guys, in Shelton, Washington at Ridge Motorsport Park, here for Global Time Attack Speed Summit. My name is Cuban Rodriguez, and I'm here with Mark Yeager in beautiful Shelton, Washington. Mark, I know this is your first time out here. You actually hadn't even seen this track, let alone in video or in photos. All you knew is what other competitors had told you about. What do you think about the Ridge Motorsport Park out here in Washington?
The Ridge, it has astounded me. Honestly, like one of those situations where coming to the track, just seeing the views at the track, they were absolutely beautiful. And then we went out on track for just a few laps and just to do some sighting, slow speed stuff. And I can't tell you guys enough how this track immensely impressed me. The turns, the runoff, the ability to have curbs, the elevation changes. I just wasn't expecting it to be this good.
It is, and you know what? Here's the downfall of the Pacific Northwest. Before I get into it, the PNW, they really craved an event. We had heard for years people saying you need to come to Washington or somewhere where we can get together, and the Ridge has been going on, I believe, since 2021. And it's absolutely been a blast. But here is the downfall of the Pacific Northwest is exactly what you guys are seeing. It's been raining since we landed here yesterday.
Yeah, it's definitely just had a nice little, I wouldn't say downpour, but just a small scattered shower type situation the entire time, and it has not stopped raining the entire time.
Now, what I will say that's positive about that is there are some competitors that had a chance and will go out there and do some lap times. But like any other time attack competition, these guys and gals, they really want to set a fast lap, and you're never going to set a fast lap in the rain.
Yeah, and truth be told, there's no such thing as a time attack wet lap record. That's just not a thing.
Nope, just like there's no such thing as the fastest car on a Sunday painted black with gold wheels. But we've heard stuff like that in the past.
Yes, we have. Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those things where guys are going to be able to get out there and actually just see the track for the very first time, start trying to set their laps up, and really just get themselves oriented with the track. I will say this, from going out there for a few laps that we did, there's so many blind crests, blind corners, things that you just aren't truly, I was not expecting. I know a lot of our time attack competitors, Bailey Woods came out and said he has done a lot of simulator work to try to get this course under control because he didn't have the opportunity to come out and really just scope the track out for himself, being that he's actually now in Southern California. But it's just one of those things where guys are able to take care of that and in the simulator, and that's just something that, go back 10, 15, 20 years ago, that's just something that guys were not able to accomplish. So by them being able to do that, the simulator makes a huge improvement on their ability to gain lap time just from the get-go. So I think guys like Bailey Woods, even though they're not able to get out there and get the lap time immediately, and they're not able to really get out here and practice how they really want to, they're going to get to, look at that roost from that Mustang. Yeah, they're going to get to be able to go out there and, understand what the track looks like before they even get there.
Did you take a breath through that?
Not even
one. I thought so. I was laughing because people say that no one can out-talk me, and boy, can Mark bring it. But that's why he's here. He balances me. You complete me on stream. I do agree with what you said, though. People like Bailey Woods, and it doesn't matter who you are or how much driving and experience you have. Tracks like this, tracks like Button Willow, tracks like Lime Rock Park. There's so many tracks that require you to just have an impeccable amount of seat time before they make sense to you. And with technology and how the world has come, it's so cool to see drivers able to really at least get some time and understand where the corners are. You saw it on your sighting lap. We'll get that up for you guys in a little bit, but you saw it on your sighting lap how you drove it once, and then we went through the whole video, and you still were lost for 80% of the lap. And me too. I've been out there before sighting, and I was lost.
Yeah, it's something where this is one of those tracks where you're going to need that time. You're going to need that understanding, and you're going to need to continue to just go out and run the track. It's not a track that you're going to be able to go turn one lap and understand exactly where everything's at. The blind corners, I can't stress this enough, the blind corners themselves are just going to be such a challenge for these guys to actually get perfect. I know a lot of people have stated, turn one, that's going to be a huge challenge for them, as well as the corkscrew. And I'm going to tell you right now, coming down this front straightaway into turn one, I'm not going to say it's exactly, but it gives me that World Time Attack vibe of turn one. It's not quite the same, but it gives me the vibe.
Yeah, it's not completely flat, but it is a lift. It's completely flat in a lower power car, of course, but the biggest thing is the biggest thing is it absolutely does its job of, if you understand yourself in the car, then you're going to understand that how much speed you can carry out through there.
Yeah, I definitely think the turn one is going to be a very fantastic corner to watch as we go through. Here's a good shot of turn one right here as the Mustang's coming into it. Obviously, we can't really see too much because of all the spray, which is good. I mean, him having a lot of spray.
You can see how deep he's going into it. That's how far turn one is. Now, obviously, guys, this is not time attack competition yet. This is the lapping group going out there, getting their first session out. But I think Mark had a chance to speak with Bailey Woods and a few other people. So before we go out on track, if we'll try to get a Bailey Woods interview up there. You had a really good conversation with him, and it was just nice to see how he felt about the track, along with other drivers that have been here before.
All right, I'm here with Bailey Woods and his E36. All right, Bailey, give us some details on this car and what you think you're going to do at the event.
Car's pretty simple. It's the usual setup: E36 M3, S54 engine, Zebulon Aero, and I took as much weight out of it as possible. Sticky tires, 245 A7s, so as long as I keep the speeds up in the corners, it's going to do pretty well, and hopefully tomorrow I get in a few laps. Didn't get any in today, but I'm searching for a 138, and we'll see if it happens or not.
So the key features on this car is lightweight, low horsepower, but basically be able to keep as much speed around the corners as possible. So kind of give us some details on how this car is able to do that.
So this car is all about chassis development. Best thing on this car is probably the suspension setup, utilizing MCS three-way suspension. Benefits of that is I can really get the car dialed in and take advantage of the tires and the weight. And yeah, I think just putting in the time to find that ideal setup and change it per track, I think it'll work out.
So you did a lot of preparation for this track and trying to get ready to essentially do your best lap possible. What were some of the things that you did to make sure that you could get that happening?
Well, didn't get to do anything on the car because I didn't get any practice, but I did my best to hop in the simulator and get as many laps as possible, even though the car doesn't quite match mine, and then study a ton of YouTube videos and see what other people are doing and try and put that together for my own little mix match on Sunday and put together a nice lap.
Awesome. Thanks, Bailey. Appreciate the time. We'll see you on track.
That really showed exactly what you were talking about with how Bailey Woods was not going to have a chance to do laps here. He's in California now, right? He grew up out here, but he's in California now. And he came out here. He did a track day happened here yesterday, and drivers wanted to try to get some warm-up laps, but he runs unlimited. It's on slicks. He was never going to have a chance to do a lap here. But he used that actual time on the sim and on the rig instead of having to try to push himself to do laps on something like a wet track on his Hoosiers.
Yeah, he actually said he was able to take out his mom's SUV to go do a few laps out on track, which obviously aren't going to be any type of representative. But again, it's just anything that he can go out there and just touch the track, right? Get a feel for what it actually looks like. Now, like we talked about before, when we were driving our little crossover SUV, right, you're going to be in a different seating position, so it's going to give you a different look. But I will say it just gives you the opportunity to go out there and just see it. I can't stress it enough. This track is going to be a challenge. It actually gave me a huge an admiration for Amir, right? Amir came out here in his street class car, and he set a record, and it's just been it was an astonishing. What was the record, Cuban?
142, if I'm not mistaken. I think we're looking. If you look at the actual times of year one, Amir was able to set a lap time of a 142.602, and that is actually held since year one. The the front wheel drive and all wheel drive, I believe, have changed. You have Amir's record right here. The front wheel drive was set in 23, and Johnny's was 2020. So I'm sorry, Amir actually set his the second year. He went faster than he did the first. He held it and then reset it. So that's super cool. Now, while these GTA drivers are starting to grid up, let's go ahead and throw another interview out there. Mark did a great job yesterday, while the rest of us were just lollygagging. That's a lie, by the way. I had to stare at him and listen to him do these interviews.
Coach
it was
me. Coach
terrible. But while Mark was able to talk to these drivers, and for those of you that haven't been paying attention, make sure you follow Mark Yeager on Instagram. It's Yeager Racing, if I'm not mistaken. He hasn't raced in years, by the way, but he hasn't changed.
Not a lick of racing.
Yeah. But follow Mark. He does such a great job of making sure that any of you guys who have driven with us, we want to promote you. We want everyone to know your story, and he has done hundreds of shorts in the short time that he's been here commentating with me. He's put in an incredible amount of work. So let's see who Mark had a chance to talk to yesterday, and we got a couple of those we want to make sure you guys hear and listen to, because these drivers are excited to be out here.
Hey guys, I'm here with Mitchell Huey and his VA Subaru STI, and he's going to tell us something interesting about his STI that he was a first for.
So my favorite thing about the car is the Zebulon wing in the rear. It's a chassis mounted wing, and it's actually the first chassis mounted Zebulon wing on a VA STI. So yeah, the title sponsor of the car is Wood Harbinger. They're a consulting engineering firm here in Seattle, Washington that I work for, and a couple years ago they were looking for unique and interesting ways to market the company. So I approached them with a race car, fully expecting them to say no. And they actually loved the idea and decided to sponsor the car, and now we're on 2 years of sponsorship with them, and no stop in sight.
That's awesome. Great to hear. Tell me, where do you think you're going to stack up in this weekend?
So this weekend we're really hoping for a podium, but the overall goal is to break the street class all-wheel drive record, which is a 146.2. So we're hoping for a 146 flat. That would be awesome.
So he's going to be shooting for that 146 flat at the Ridge Motorsports Park, Global Time Attack. Let's do it. Speed Summit.
What a shocker, guys. Mark found a guy with a Subaru to talk to. Though it's funny enough is, though, that is really cool. For any of you guys out there or drivers who are going to rewatch this later, never hesitate to shoot your shot with sponsors. This is a very expensive sport, guys. And, you know, not everyone is going to get lucky and have a marketing firm decide that you're worth the money, but truth be told, there's a lot of people out there willing to support you in many ways. Money isn't always the biggest thing that you need. Sometimes it's consumables, tires, brakes, parts. So never hesitate to shoot your shot out there, because like he proved himself, sometimes you go over there with high hopes and maybe you know what the realism is, but look how he came out.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing, right? So it's something where it's an engineering firm, right? So he can weigh on those guys and actually get some advice, get some help. You know, obviously they do a lot of engineering, they said, in plumbing and homes and stuff like that. But still, you have that engineering background. And let me tell you, a lot of engineers, if you have an engineer that is remotely interested in a car, they are going to want to jump at the chance to get an opportunity to come and work on a race car. So it's always going to have an opportunity there to kind of give back, feed into it, and whether or not he's getting money from this firm or not, it's definitely going to be a situation where there always could be something they could parlay in between. And it's just cool. It's something where that works. So it's something that he can always talk about with other people. It's just going to keep him engaged at work and keep the people around him engaged. So it's just an awesome situation. And I really do hope, right, Johnny Hernandez, he's the one that's currently holding the record at a 146.24. And I'm really hoping, Subaru to Subaru, you know, that we can get this record going for him and really push it, because that's what we're here for, right? We want to see records fall. We never want to see records stay stagnant for a long period of time. We want to see guys out here pushing it as best they can.
No, I agree 100%. And you took my line, by the way. I was going to talk about Johnny, and I'm glad that you just, you don't breathe anymore, Mark, and it's really weird, dude. It's before this, you couldn't say more than 6 words. Parlay? Are you a pirate now?
You know,
I love it. No, it was really good. Honest to God, I love it. It was really good. It's totally true. Johnny Hernandez is a staple of GTA. He's always stayed on the West Coast. He's been to Atlanta before, but he's definitely a guy that tried to support as much as he can. We'll actually see him at finals in an FL5 Type R.
Yeah,
he's walked away from you, my friend.
Yep.
He's walked away from you.
He finally decided, enough's enough, and Subaru life is stressful.
He didn't have many failures, though. That's the thing.
He didn't.
He was like the Thomas Smith era, where the car made a good, decent 5-something horsepower, and he developed himself. And the suspension. But what I loved about the thing we forgot to talk about earlier is Bailey Woods mentioned something that every driver needs to take to heart. he's talking about the suspension and the setup. And yes, you can always add power to a car, but at a track like this, more power does nothing for you. It does if you understand the track and know where you can put it down, but realistically, more power does nothing for you here. So Bailey Woods has done it right, and Bailey Woods' lap times everywhere he goes are actually very fast for, you know, an S52 E36, you know, NA car with just a driver mod and gutted on sticky tires. So these drivers have done a really good job over the years of realizing that, yes, I can continue to throw parts at my car, or I can get in my car and drive it.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with Bailey Woods and that BMW of his. It's like he said, and like he's talked about over and over again, right? The chassis development from him and his team. You know, they absolutely put a lot of effort into that and getting it set up in a correct way so that he can actually go out there and put the best lap time down. And I think a big part of that, too, is the car has been extraordinarily reliable because he's not trying to push the most power that he possibly can out of that car, which is really freaking awesome. But definitely, you know, in the time attack world, power does come into play, right? You start going to tracks like COTA, Road Atlanta, that's where the power is really going to show. At a track like the Ridge, like you said, I think we can get away with having a lower horsepower car, and I'm very interested to see. What do you think? What do you think Bailey's chances are?
I don't want to call it getting away. We all fall into this because you and I have been doing this since 2009.
Long time.
Not commentating, but you and I have been a part of this. We were both blessed to be born in California. That's not a blessing, by the way, guys, but the reason it is because this is where it all started, right? We were blessed to be there where Time Attack came to Button Willow, and then Redline happened, the original, and then Global happened. And, you know, we weren't watching Time Attack on Super Speed or Super Street. We weren't watching it in magazines. We were going to the events when we were young.
Absolutely.
You know, I ditched high school to go to an event once, you know. I graduated in 05. Mark is older than me, which is fantastic, by the way. Mark graduated in 02 probably, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
So you, at the first event, you could have just gone because you didn't have to ditch your senior classes.
100%.
But we're lucky that we've been in this long enough, and I don't want to get in the trope of get away with less power, because you have to remember, when this started, the lap times are still respectable. Look up Sierra's lap times, look up Cyber Evo. They weren't making 1 million horsepower. They were making 400 to 500, and people will try to argue that, but we were there. Those, you know, there was no such thing as the 800 horsepower Time Attack car back then. So yes, is Bailey Woods underpowered? I would agree 100%.
For this day and age.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be different horses for different courses. And I think even, you know, I think if Bailey Woods had added a bunch of power, he still wouldn't be incredibly fast at a place like Road Atlanta because he's lacking the big aero. You know, with more power comes the need for a car to brake better, to do all of that. And if Bailey takes that route, I think it's awesome, and I think he'd be a great guy to do it because he's going to develop the car in the process. You were there. You went from street to limited, and your first few events in limited sucked because you had more aero, but your suspension wasn't set up for it. So the car was bottoming out, and your brakes weren't set up for it. You didn't have a strong enough compound. So
to build a flat bottom as a whole is such an endeavor that people truly do not understand. The flat bottom itself was excruciatingly painful, and I cannot state this enough to anybody out there that's like, oh, I'll just go throw a flat bottom on the bottom of my car, I'll go faster. It was absolutely the most horrendous thing in the world to try to get right.
I agree. Now, we are going to get some GTA guys out. Now, this is going to be a California native, old school. He ran early on in GTA. He actually set a front-wheel drive record in his Turbo Scion TC, Efren Flores.
Oh, good old Efren.
He's a Honda guy now, just like Johnny Hernandez. He's seen the way. And behind him, we'll have an R35, and behind him, we'll have a Subaru. These cars will obviously go out here. I think Efren, rain or shine, needs time on the track. He's never driven here before, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
So he just needs to see the track. I don't think we're going to see some crazy lap times here, but I will tell you that at the end of the day, they just need to have lap time.
Yeah, many of these guys, you know, we have a lot of guys that have not been on the track before. So the big part of what they're trying to accomplish is just sightseeing, right? It's just trying to understand where the braking, trying to see where the cones are, trying to see all these things, and trying to get an idea of where they can actually push the car later on.
I think what we'll do here is let's watch lap times a little bit. Let's make sure that these drivers, you know, make it around the track safely. And then maybe we'll give you guys a video of what's going on for the track itself, so you could just, even more than anything, you guys can see how crazy it is out there in the wet. There are literal ravines you can see That's another thing
we
they
saw
don't understand.
water flowing.
With the elevation. So for you guys watching, there's 300 foot of elevation change on this track. Okay, 300 feet up and down is a lot of elevation change for a racetrack.
Yes, it is.
So we were going up, and Mark was missing corners and missing apexes because he was staring at a river running down the middle of the track. It was great to watch, guys. Also, don't let Mark drive you on a track. He's gotten old. He's lost
I'm
it.
rusty, man. I'm rusty.
But it's actually really cool to see these guys going out. And if you live in an area where it rains, you should really go to track days in the rain.
They are. They're actually great learning tools, right? Obviously, I'm going to say this. Find a track without very many walls. That's also useful.
Yes.
But it's one of those things where if you can go out on track, there's so much you can learn about your car. And it's just something that, a professional racing driver with professional team, all those other things, right? They have a complete wet setup and a complete dry setup. But many of these guys are showing up with a just dry setup that they generally hone in for time attack. And now they're just trying to throw on either a different set of tires. And realistically, some of these guys don't even have a different set of tires, right?
Well, the bigger thing for me was you'll never learn more car control than driving your car in the rain. When you learn to push your car in the rain, I'll tell you right now, the first GT I drove myself, because I was always helping teams who were there, was actually when we ran Pro-Ams back in the day. It was the last Pro-Am at Buttonwillow. Remember, there were always 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And day one Buttonwillow, it was raining. I'd never driven it in my EG. I think I'd only driven it once, and it was slow. But I'd never driven it in the rain. And I did a 258, dude, sub 3. It was it's like 251. This was my B series. VTEC wasn't working. It was raining. I was going off but I was having a blast. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. But God, I went sub 3. It was terrible news.
How many guys got stuck in the mud?
Oh, myself. I got out. I used it. But yeah, you're correct. Andrew Neer actually tore the front end off his Mustang. That's when we had to get it taken home.
That old boss Mustang.
But the second day, it was it had sprinkled in the morning and then it dried out. But by beginning to end of first day, I'd gained 10 seconds. From beginning of second day to end of second day, I'd gained 44 seconds. I promise you, if both days were dry, my lap time wouldn't have been as fast. It wasn't fast, like 210 or 208 or something like that. It was nothing
It's
crazy.
still respectable. Still respectable.
No. You don't have to give me love, okay? You can trash me as much as I trash you. But at the end of the day, I promise you, I would have been nowhere near that time if both days were dry, because you kind of have to find your limit as a driver and the car's limit, and then it helps you push it as it gets nicer and nicer outside.
Yeah, and it's such an easy way to start learning the car and what it does, and especially when you get into those sliding conditions, and it can gain you so much confidence at a later on time in the track day, right? So it's just wild. It's definitely something that's cool. Efren going through the start finish.
Yeah, and it's also very difficult to drive, with your windshield wipers on. I don't know about you guys. I'm a big windshield wiper hater in real life. I like to coat
Get that Rain-X, baby.
I like to coat my windshields, and actually, every car I've owned except the Lexus I'm driving right now, I've taken to a place that does ceramic coatings, and I've paid the $100-something bucks to coat the windshield.
Oh, really?
Because it lasts 4 or 5 years.
It
lasts like 4 or 5 years, depending where you are. Maybe not as much here if it rains a lot, but
Yeah.
But it's one of those when the water doesn't bead, it's great. And I did that to every car I've ever driven on track. So these guys are absolutely out here, though. They're getting it, and you got to respect that they just want to put laps in the rain and make sure that they can comfortably get out here on track. But the goal really is to go out here and try and go as fast as you can. So the weather here, no one knows who can predict the weather. I think Mark has looked at the weather report more recently. It could have been 10 a.m. It could have been 2 p.m. I don't know. What are we looking at for the rain to stop, Mark?
Yeah, we're looking at the weather here. It looks like the weather is supposed to clear up roughly around noon with some scattered showers still later on in the day. I'm really hoping that we can get that rain really dissolved. It says it's going to kind of teeter off there around 11 o'clock, and then we're just going to looking at scattered. If the scattered happens, that's definitely going to help us dry this thing out. We're going to have guys going around doing lapping days too, so that's going to help the track itself dry out. They also have a really great staff here at the Ridge where they're going to go out there and blow it all off and wipe it away essentially during the lunch period. I think that's going to be the situation that we're really hoping for is it dries out, stops raining after like 11, we get lunch in, and then we come back from lunch, and we have it all blown off and done, and then we're just getting some scattereds, and I think the guys will be able to start putting down slightly representative laps.
Yeah, the biggest thing I will tell you is I just stuck my head outside, Mark, and it is coming down.
Yeah.
It's very hard to see on the stream. I mean, yeah, you guys can kind of tell, but it's actually, I'd say, 3 times worse than when we did our siding lap.
Yeah, it is. It is. The rain does say, the weatherman does say at 10:30 is when we're going to get the worst of the weather, and it's 10:25, so it's looking pretty accurate.
I think because these guys are going to come in, I think while we're waiting, maybe we try to shoot up the lap we did. If we can get the lap we did up so you guys can see, even though it was raining on our lap, but so they can see what this track actually looks like in the wet.
Absolutely.
Here we are, guys, Global Time Attack Ridge Motorsport Park in Washington. The biggest thing about this track that people have never had a chance to see is how crazy the elevation changes are, how blind the corners are. I've personally driven this track in a sighting lap 2 or 3 times, and Mark has never seen it. So let's go ahead and see what Mark thinks of this track going forward. So Mark, I know that you've seen the track layout, but the biggest thing that you're not going to notice is how high speed this turn 1 is. Now, we're in the rain, obviously. It's a little bit different, but I'm going to let Mark talk to you guys about the corners, and I'll talk about the small nuances. But this right here, for all of you watching at home, these would be brake markers, but you're not hard braking into one in the dry. You're basically doing a small like button willow kink kind of thing where you're slowing it down. You're going to turn in here. Instinct's going to tell you to stay inside, but Mark, it's all you from here.
Yeah, we're waiting on the outside. We're using our cones on the right. There's our markers, and then we're going to come in, hook it in real tight here at the apex of the corner for turn 1. This is a corner that many of the drivers have said is going to be one of the most difficult corners to master, and especially in the wet, it's going to be even more difficult.
More so because every single corner like this is completely blind. So you guys saw, we're up high in the car right now. We're in a crossover SUV. Being in a car, they would not have seen this corner until literally right now. So all the elevation change and blindness of this track is what really makes it so exciting.
Absolutely. This is actually super astonishing. When you're down low in that race car and you're unable to see past your point, it's very, very difficult to make sure that you're having that confidence that you really need. That's where experience, that's where having known the track and known the track layout very well is really going to come into those guys' play. The guys that are coming out for the very first time, this is going to be a whirlwind to try to get mastered, especially because it's raining right now.
100%. So here we are again. We're coming up to cones, so we know there's a braking point, but not until right now do we even see the corner.
Yeah.
So the braking point's there. So an amateur driver is going to want to start turning in, but notice Mark is waiting, and now he's going to do what we would call a late apex, because if you started turning in earlier, you've just completely cut the corner out. You've made the radius of the corner so small that you would have to lose speed. And truth be told, Mark probably even made it tighter than he would have wanted to.
Absolutely, my inexperience really came in there.
And to be fair, we gave him one siding lap at a low speed so he wouldn't look so terrible, but he's still driving the Mark Yeager way. But we come up and over, and it's blind right here on a downhill. The last lap he did, he stayed inside because that's natural, and if you stayed inside, look what you would have missed.
Yeah, and this is huge again. They have some cones out here to help you out, to really get you acclimated. But again, this corner, you're looking all the way into your passenger side window just to be able to see and understand where the track is going. It's absolutely an astonishing track to drive. I'm really impressed by this track and the elevation changes. I was not expecting all the elevation changes. And the curbs for runoff are absolutely gorgeous. It's really astonishing how well this track is built, laid out, and how well it is to drive.
For what you guys are watching, we're obviously going at a low speed here. We're doing a siding lap. A lot of these lines that Mark's taking, you wouldn't take today.
Yeah.
Now look at this. We're at a blind uphill. There's
I
a
don't
ravine.
even know where to go.
Exactly. Like right here, Mark messed up. He's
Yeah.
on the inside when he should have been on the outside. That's a lack of experience. Though we did it before, I'd have done the same thing. I've done multiple siding laps here, and I'd have done the same thing. But this is probably the hardest corner to hit as far as late apexes. You can see the braking point here, so this is where you would be at your speed, but Mark is still going to stay outside, and then he's going to hit the inside right here, because you want to open the corner up as much as possible to save speed.
And you can see where guys are dipping rear wheels off, trying to get the traction down, probably sliding the car a little bit. It's just something that's natural when you're in that race car pushing as hard as you possibly can. That's going to be a really epic corner to see if you can get the drive out of the corner and get it accomplished. Again, we're back into basically a full 180-degree corner here, where you're going to have to come in, get that late apex in, turn it up, and then get some, they have some great curbing on the outside that you can use to get the acceleration out of there.
Coming up right here, you can't see anything except trees in the background, guys, but this is actually the best corner on this track. It's the most popular corner. You'll see right now he's coming up to a blind braking zone. Where are we going, guys? Like, holy crap, we have to do a U-turn now. So he's hard on the brakes,
and all of a sudden you're into a
Look at
corkscrew
this.
with
Look
a
at
higher
this.
elevation change than Laguna Seca.
I just want to stop for a quick second.
Look
Look
down.
at this corkscrew. This is absolutely astonishing. We have a ravine going downhill. We have awesome curbing. This whole track setup is absolutely epic. I did not expect this coming into this. I am so excited to see this track and see these guys running this track.
Yep. Now we're into the right-hander, and you'll see a lot of guys hug the inside here, and we saw speed differences incredible, 20, 30 miles an hour by the drivers who understood that you stay wide here, you carry speed down the front straight. Now we're going to go back into pit in because obviously we will never go backwards through a pit, so we're going to go to pit in right here. But right here is a nice little left kink. Even the hard cornering. So you'll see here before we come into pit, you're not even given a straightaway after the corkscrew. You have to carry that speed and then hit this kink right here, and then you shoot down the front. So guys, we wanted to give you a lap around Ridge Motorsport Park. We wanted you to understand what these drivers are going through in the wet and in the dry. And honestly, Mark will take any chance he can to drive on the track, even at low speeds.
Absolutely. Thanks guys for joining us, and we'll see you on the stream.
That was a really good shot, so you guys could understand what was going on out on track. It's really crazy because if you guys were noticing, we didn't even realize how noticeable it would have been on camera, but you could physically see the water running down the hills and the water.
Corkscrew. Oh my God, the corkscrew. You could just see the water, and that's just what we were talking about. These competitors are having to deal with that. That is huge. That is absolutely difficult. And one thing you probably didn't notice, or maybe you did in that video as well, if you're coming down that corkscrew, you know what's right at the end of that corkscrew? A fence, a wall. So you really can't take too many chances there, especially in the rain. What do you think, Cuban?
The thing is, I've seen drivers take some very aggressive lines through there in the dry, and I didn't think that you could even take those lines in the dry. We've seen drivers jump that inside curb to straighten it out to make the right, and what's crazy is you saw it, how much you would have to turn to make that jump, but the people jumping it are doing faster lap times. But directly down, so if you jump it and you lose the rear end, right in front of you is a nice wall to stop you from hitting somebody on the front straight.
Yep.
So it's a lot of risk versus reward here, and I think if you risk it enough here and it turns out for you, that's where the fast laps come from.
Yeah, the incredible amount of bravery that's going on out there with these guys out on track, guys and gals.
Bravery, skill, though, is more than anything, you know, because even the most skilled driver is going to make a mistake here and there. We've seen professionals on professionals make mistakes like that. Nothing new there, but it's super cool to see the lines that they have to take. The bigger thing is, and the bigger thing what I was going to say is that you saw it, the corkscrew, even on the video, does not show how steep that is. You know, that is a 50-foot drop in the shortest amount of distance. In that SUV going 30, the turn would have felt unsafe to people. If you have a passenger or someone who likes to hold on to the handle when you're taking corners, they would have lost their mind the way we drove that. You were doing 27 miles an hour.
Yeah, it reminds me of the first time I ever went to Road Atlanta. When I drove into Road Atlanta for the very first time, and I saw that downhill final corner, and it just blew my mind that I was going to get to drive on a track that looked like that, right? And that's the kind of same thing with Laguna Seca, the corkscrew there. It very much resembles those kind of corners, and those are such iconic racetracks, and that's what the Ridge is really pushing to me and giving me that feeling of. We do have a tow truck out on track. We don't quite know who they're out there trying to pull out there, but we'll get that news to you guys as soon as we can.
It looks like we can see the break in the weather coming, though. You see how bright it is past those dark clouds?
Yeah.
Now, we do want this clouds and this rain to go away for multiple reasons. More so, we want you guys to be able to see this track. And obviously, we can't fly a drone in the rain. We can't give you the aerial shots, and we can't get the big production camera up until it calms down a little bit. But we want you guys to be able to see it, and you will this weekend. But this is always the risk, and this is probably why for the longest time people try to stay away from the Pacific Northwest. But the community is so good out here. The drivers are amazing. The excitement is here, and you can't take that away from them. It's not their fault that they live somewhere where it literally rains for no reason all day.
They do love their trees out here.
I don't know where you guys are from listening, but it is crazy that the entire drive to and from the track is in a tree line. You're driving through a forest, and it's I feel like they get too much oxygen out here almost, you know, and it kind of drives them a little crazy, you know, a little oxygen poisoning.
Definitely a good time out here, that's for sure. Like you said, though, I'm looking at our camera here, and it definitely looks like we're getting a little break out there. The clouds are moving quick too, so that's a really good feat there for us.
It is, and you know what's crazy is that's just wind up top because it's really not that windy outside, but the weather is real, guys. It's cold, it's wet, and these drivers were still excited in the drivers' meeting. They were standing in the rain getting their cars teched, and they were excited about it.
Yeah, the guys were so cool. They're coming over, you know, having a conversation, telling us all about their car. Definitely a lot of very interesting cars. I had a good conversation with James Taylor. He's got that beautiful 260Z out there, and it's definitely a car that is one of my dream cars. I'll admit it. The problem I have is maybe I'm just lazy, but I just don't
You
want
want
to
a
deal with all the
260 over a
rust.
240?
Oh, absolutely.
I don't understand that. What makes
Such
the
a-
260 nicer
It's
looking to you?
beautiful. It's just every corner of the car is sculpted in a way that is just beautiful to me. It's an amazing looking car to me.
The 240 though, the 240Z, it's just so much better.
It's just not there for me.
Okay, fine. I respect it. I'm done talking to you about that. I didn't want to lose too much respect. I agree, though. Those generation of cars are great. But we can also go new generation. I believe that you had a chance to speak to a gentleman with an A90 Supra that has a great thought process on time attack. Who was that you were talking to? And I believe it was an A90, right?
Yeah, it was Ryan Frazier. Ryan Frazier, you know, he's got a beautiful car, an excellent livery. And he's kind of an interesting fella in terms of we were talking to him more and more, and his car he showed up on some RE71Rs, and an interesting factor of that is he also has the Yokohamas, he also has the CRSs.
I hope he knows how to drive or set up all three of those, though. You don't have to set the car up differently necessarily, but RE71Rs are hard sidewall tires. They don't require as much pressure. AO52 soft sidewall tires require a lot more pressure. You know CRS is better than I do, so I don't have an answer for that.
The CRSs are a great tire. That is an absolutely proven fact. You know, Jackie Ding has used the crap out of those things and set records in a lot of different places. But it's going to come down to probably driver feel, what he prefers. Obviously, he has chosen the REs as his tire of choice, and that's the tire that he feels more comfortable with. But you know, it's definitely one of those things, driver choice.
Well, let's hear what he has to say as far as drivers go. We'll shoot it over to an interview with that beautiful A90 Supra. What was his name again, Mark?
Ryan Frazier. I'm here with Ryan Frazier in his 2020 Toyota Supra, BMW Supra, kinda. All right, Ryan, do me a favor. Tell me what's going on with the car. What do you think are some of the best properties of the car that's going to get you on the track fastest?
Well, this is my 2020 Supra. We've modified it with a bigger turbo from AMS. We're making about 495 horse and around 550 torque. We'll be running RE71 RSs this time out. We have a splitter and we have a spoiler from Veris Engineering, and that's about it.
Ryan, you were here last year. How do you think your times are going to compare from this year to last year, and what do you think is going to be your improvement?
Seat time, and seat time. So this is my 4th year doing Time Attack, 3rd year at Global Time Attack. Last year I think we finished with 146. We've already hit 144.1, and I expect to be in the 143s.
Well, I hope to see you in the 143s, and I hope to see you up on that podium looking good at the end of the day.
Awesome, thank you.
My favorite thing about that interview, Mark, seat time, seat time, seat time.
Oh, yeah, baby. It's something that we can never take for granted. Being in the car, driving, getting a feel for everything that it has, everything that it will have, everything that it needs is absolutely going to be your friend. And I will say this, that's something that, as a Time Attack driver, can actually be the hardest to get.
We all want to go faster, and the only reason I say we because people always like to troll me because I troll everybody else. I have been part of a lot of teams, and I've helped a lot of privateers, yourself included, for little things, but you've just seen me out there, you know? And I say we because when you go fast at an event, in your head, you're not like, okay, cool, I want to go to the next one and go faster with the same setup. You're like, oh, man, I need to push it. I need to add this, or we need to do that. But you see the people that have set the most records, they tend to be the people that ran a whole season on almost an identical car.
Yeah, that's actually a huge and great point. some of the problems that we generally have in time attack is we go, hey, I need to go faster. I need to slap more power, more handling, more, right? I need to put the biggest, widest tires I possibly can on the car. When a lot of times getting that seat time and getting that ability of the driver, raising that level, raising that bar is really what's going to make the difference here. So I just can't state it enough. I think guys need to spend more time in the car and driving, or by the contrary, in a simulator.
A lot of old school guys will tell you sims don't do it, but there are people that have gone from sim racing straight to professional racing in IMSA. You know what I mean? So if you use it as a tool instead of a game, I'm really guilty of this, man. I will get in a sim with VR and run 472 laps of the Nürburgring because I just want to drive it. I've spent more time at the ring than I've spent talking to my wife. This is just over my lifetime, you know? And truth be told, sorry, Chelsea, I love you. Truth be told, some people like me, I don't take it as a job. I don't take it seriously. I mean, I do driving seriously, but these guys are taking it. They're using iRacing, Assetto Corsa mods, because Assetto Corsa is incredible, and there are mods to make it even more incredible. They're using these things to drive a track and really hone in their brake markers and their lines, where I'm seeing how fast can I go around the ring in the Spec Miata, which is wild, but like it's crazy. You could drop 10 seconds just with lines alone, you know? So for me, it's just fun. For them, they're using it as a job. And I think that's why you see even the Max Verstappens and the Lando Norrises of the world still sim race, because they know how real and serious it is.
Something that always kind of stuck out to me was they asked Lewis Hamilton about this, and he says he does not like spending time in the Mercedes sim.
He's old school. Look,
He is.
We still see Lewis as young because he's not old by any means, but bro, he's been in the series for over 10 years, okay? He's an old school. He grew up kart racing with his dad. You know, so he's not the guy that's going to think that sims are a thing. Now, no one's saying Verstappen didn't. Verstappen was karting too, but Verstappen is a whole generation younger.
Yep.
He's getting into it exactly how he thinks is the best way to go. And he hates the sim. They do the sims, obviously. I mean, they have to, but he doesn't take it as a learning experience more than anything. It's just, this is part of my job.
And it kind of goes back to, you know, reining it back a little bit more, right? So we've talked about things like promoting yourself. And by doing sim racing, it's much more relatable to many people out there. So guys like Max and Lando, right, they're out there sim racing, and you know how many guys that can hop on a sim and immediately relate to them, you know, and can compare themselves to them. So I think that's something that can really help their, you know, quote unquote stardom as these amazing drivers, and just something that can make people relate to them and see something that they never saw before.
Absolutely correct. I don't think I'll ever be able to sit down on a video game and take it seriously, only because, you know, I'm of the Gran Turismo era, GTA 1, 2, 3, I said GTA, GT 1, 2, 3, 4,
you played
5.
those too.
I absolutely do, waiting for 6. But we grew up in the era where we played Gran Turismo because it was more realistic than Forza. Forza's cool, but we all played Gran Turismo because it was more realistic. But at the same time, we still did unrealistic things on the game. So I think until 4 and then 5 came out, you know, it has become so incredible. But for us, it was all about how fast can we go in this game, not how can I use this game to make myself faster in real life.
An interesting fact, when we were preparing for Road Atlanta for the very first time, you know what I used? Forza. That's all I had to work with, and that's what I did. It's just practice Forza day in, day out.
And notice he didn't even podium that event.
Didn't even podium. Maybe if I would have sacked up and bought iRacing or Gran Turismo or something like that.
It's hard, and you got close though. For first-time travel across the states, you were right off the brink of third place, and you're one of the few drivers that'll admit it was a you mistake, not a car. You had it, you just couldn't put it together. But it's hard.
Turn one.
Final turn, first turn, 2 hardest corners of the track. You know what sucks? When you make the mistake there, your whole lap's ruined.
Yeah. And the funny part is the last turn I was the most confident in. I had an enormous amount of confidence in the final turn, but there's just something about that turn 1 at Road Atlanta that nothing ever clicked for me there.
It's because you can carry more speed than you think. You can turn in much later than you can think. But that one time you tried it, you went off on the outside, and it ruins.
2 people went off on that first turn at that event, and I think one person even hit the wall.
It ruins your confidence.
And it instantly just stuck with me. I don't know what it was.
I watched Andrew Neer tear the front end of his car off of Phil Hill, and for the next 2 years, I couldn't carry any speed through Phil Hill because all I was thinking about was, yeah, but that off on the left, though.
Speaking of someone interesting, so I'll never forget the last time I ran Global Time Attack Finals, and I had Dustin Kent behind me in his Subaru, and I have an amazing footage of him ripping off his entire front bumper and it shattering into a million pieces.
Will Watanawan Kiri actually has footage of that Pro-Am I was talking about. He was behind me. Remember when he drove the S13?
Oh, yeah.
He was behind me when I spun out going up and over Phil Hill, then got caught in the mud. It's So there's always footage, guys, just so you know, at a track day. Any mistake you make will be seen by the world. Don't think it won't.
Seen, heard, and talked about forever.
Speaking of which, we did get that tow truck off. I'm not sure. I'll wait till we hear about it, but whoever it was, it didn't look like there was damage on the vehicle. It may have just been a small car problem. These drivers are out here. We're seeing, lap times of 2:35s and slower only because you see the spray. This is incredible racing weather. This is terrible lap time weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tony Trung there in his amazing Audi, right? He built this car for straight line speed, and of course he's got to take some corners at some point, and it is an Audi, so it does handle relatively well. Cuban was telling me a little bit about Audis because I honestly don't know anything about them.
I don't know that much. I just know about the people I've talked to, but the new age TTRSs, the new age A3s, A4s, S's, these motors can make serious jam. I'm talking, you got guys who are street guys. I'm not saying you're going to make 800 horsepower and make it last on the track, but you guys got guys making 500, 600, 700 horsepower on these stock blocks. Now, I also know of somebody who was making 700 and turned his internals into powder, but he was also at Auto Club Speedway. He was at Auto Club Speedway. You can't make power like that on a stock block and then hold it wide open through a Roval for an entire day,
Yeah.
But these cars are development-wise are getting better. Now, I haven't driven them. I know we both know about it. You can tell them a story about the bigger issues with them as far as driving them on track. But as someone who's not the biggest fan of new German cars, give me an E36, give me an E46, give me a old school race Mercedes. Those cars were incredible. But I'm not too fond of new age German cars or a lot of new age cars in general because they have the same concept of you can't work on them yourself, you can't mod them yourself, and if anything happens, it's got to go to a dealer. It has to go somewhere with dealer level product.
Yeah, and one interesting thing about Tony's car is he's making around 574 horsepower. Obviously, the all-wheel drive out here in the rain is a huge benefit to him, but he doesn't have a lot of downforce on the car, and the downforce would really help him be able to accomplish the good lap times, even in the wet. I mean, I think he's running like a 234 right now. Yeah, 234 right now, which is pretty dang good, I'd say.
The lap that we did in the car, we started it late, and that lap was like 3.5 minutes or something, like 3 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the ability to do those things in any type of good time is definitely a difficult thing to do, especially when you're in an SUV. These guys are making some jam, though, coming down that front straightaway. They're pushing hard still. You can see him braking deep into turn one, making sure he's getting it down to speed so he can make that turn.
And, I mean, there's the negative. You wish you were, able to put down competition laps at the competition, but at the same time, these guys get this whole beautiful track to themselves right now. It does hurt for the unlimited guys who are on slicks who can't go out there at all. You don't necessarily bring rain tires. Now, I will tell you, I've only ever met one man that takes rains with them everywhere, and it's Tony Zerka.
Really?
Tony Zerka takes rains with them everywhere. He absolutely does. He has actual rains, not just treaded tires. He has actual rains that he takes with him everywhere. You know how I know? Because when I was in California Project, we borrowed them for Pikes Peak. Because it was the first year Project went up the mountain, and testing days, it was a possibility of rain. So he let us borrow them.
The crazy part is, obviously Tony's from Arizona, which makes it even wilder that he has rains all the time.
He traveled everywhere with GTA, though. He's done the world tour many times. Look, you will see the car again. I'm done trolling him because I see the progress. You will see the car again, and it will be soon. So, but a lot of these guys, they don't necessarily bring rains. And truth be told, with the quality of street tires, I wouldn't necessarily bring rains either. I'd bring a set of RE71s. Yep. I'd bring a set of something that at least has treads in it. Because at the end of the day, no tire including reins, reins will give you a little more, but no tire is going to give you that much traction out here. You would need reins with tire warmers, and you'd have to immediately go out and get heat into them to even be able to think about going
It's going to
fast.
be really tough for these grassroots time attack guys to be able to get that accomplished. And to kind of circle back on the Audi stuff, so I actually had the opportunity to drive a friend's Audi TT a couple years ago, right? And we were doing lapping days at Big Willow, and one of the biggest things that I absolutely hated about this car is you just could not turn off traction control at any given time. No matter you turned it off, you played with it, you touched every button on the planet, and like you talked about with the dealer setup stuff, it's like, what do I got to do? Bring this to the dealer to have him turn off traction control so I can go turn some laps?
We had a Audi TT at Ascend in Colorado, and he actually had to have his buddy who had Audi software come down and turn off his traction. It freaked out. He'd already had it all turned off in the tune, but something happened and it turned back on, and he was going fast. He was setting some laps, but the car was fighting him, so he actually had to have his buddy drive down with Audi proprietary software on his computer, because I believe he worked for Audi, and turn all this stuff back off. And as
It's
far
quite
as us
intrusive. It's super intrusive.
As far as us performance guys go, look, I understand why the cars have these nannies in them, but I don't understand why I cannot turn it off.
Yeah, give me the option. That's all we're asking for, car manufacturers, is give me the option to turn it off. And I'll even take when it's I have to hit 13 buttons 15 times to get it to happen, even though that is annoying. There are some car manufacturers out there that do some amazing stuff where it's a one button push, and then it's all off and everything's all good. But as long as we have the capability to turn it off, and again, going back to the Audi, it was not there. Like, no matter what I did, you could not turn it off. And it was so intrusive. You were coming around turn 8, and it's breaking the car in ways. Now, I will say this. Tony's probably really excited that he has it on right now.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And then to a complete counterpoint to what you're saying, Ford, you should make sure you can't turn off the traction control in Mustangs, okay? Mark went from Subaru to Mustang, so he is a crowd killer now. You should have to have a course passed, and you should have to put a card in to have to turn on traction control and those things, okay? But it is true, and manufacturers are doing a good job. It's funny because you actually hear about it more and more, manufacturers pushing the fact that their cars can be tracked and this and that. I was going to bring up Toyota with the GR Corolla, but apparently they don't support anything with people who track them. 2 of them have caught on fire just under normal driving, and they won't even warranty them. What? And those are cars that Toyota says you should take them to track. And the reason for one of them, you went over 85.
Whoa!
Not to bring the politics of other car manufacturers into this, but the cool thing about those cars is the Japanese manufacturers have done a great job of still making it easy to turn off the nannies, and I think that's really cool because this is their heritage. This is what they do.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one thing I give a lot of credit to Ford, right? They did push down that like EV market pretty heavily there for a while, but they are taking the stance of the enthusiast, right? The Mustang itself. And I've heard word and rumors here and there that they're actually talking about bringing back more of like a small compact car type situation again.
They haven't had a good hot hatch in a very long time.
True.
The best hot hatches they had, we didn't get in the States. You know what I mean? It's like they got Fords in Europe with Cosworth engines in them.
Yeah.
It's
like, can we get some of that stuff
now,
over here?
given the States isn't everything, let's talk about a global market. Ford has done a good job. Ford did a good job in Australia. The supercar, the V8 supercar life.
Supercars are so awesome to watch.
They did an incredible job there. It's very few companies have continued to push the hot hatch life. Honda has the Type R. I don't know where Subaru is in life right now. They're lacking in STI. I think it'll come out, but I'm just afraid of which path they're taking, to be honest with you.
It'll be very interesting.
Nissan is still keeping the dream alive with the 400ZX, and the cars I'm talking about may not be everyone's cup of tea, but they're still keeping.
Those are good. That's a good-looking car. It's kind of a weird situation.
Same chassis as the 350. No, who cares? No, they're super cool cars though, and they're doing a good job of keeping that alive. And it's great to see that happening. But Ford has not had a good hot hatch. I mean, dude, look at Hyundai. The Elantra N is fast. The Elantra N is incredibly fast, and Will Dries proved that.
Yes.
An enthusiast guy. Well, it should have been enthusiast of someone else's, but he's sub-2ing in a stock car on tires.
I know that car has astonished me in multiple times, multiple places. I definitely did not expect him to do as well as he did in COTA, and by no means did I expect him to do as well as he did at Butterman.
Companies they're pushing EV markets, they're hybrids, efficiency, as they should. I understand all of that, but it's great to see a majority of these companies out here still understanding that the performance side of this industry matters. We're not dying, we're growing. It may be growing in a whole bunch of different directions, which I live for. If you grow in a niche, you die as a niche. You got to grow in a lot of directions. But it's great to see manufacturers who took a break. It almost felt like for 5, 6, 7 years, no one was making anything cool.
That's a true statement. And one thing to point out, too. So our guy, Ferris Kortumi, guess where he's at? He's preparing for World Time Attack next weekend. And one of the things he's doing, what's he driving? A Hyundai.
100%. That's the thing.
He's preparing for the event, driving a Hyundai around Sydney Motorsports Park.
Yeah, and he's driven the track. He knows it. He was very, very fast, and it's cool. And the funny thing is that he's driving last year's car there. It's not his new car. It's because for those of you that don't know, Ferris built a new car, and that's what he's been competing with in the States. But the car that's there is actually his old chassis.
I didn't even realize that, to be honest with you. Wow, that's actually pretty interesting.
It's hard for me now. Don't get me wrong. He may have shipped the new chassis, but I don't believe he did. The old chassis went from Australia to Japan and then back to Australia.
I mean, that would make sense.
So he is going to go out there and he's going to make the entire U.S. Time Attack community proud. As far as the rest of those things go, now what else we have going on here that I always like to point out that the fans, the drivers, they make this happen, but we couldn't do this without the companies that support us. So we got to give those guys nothing but love.
Absolutely. And just something you might be hearing it in the background of our vocals here, but we got tons of drifting going on here at this event as well. So if your guys are interested in drifting, if you're in the local area, you want to check out some awesome drifting and some guys that are attacking time like crazy, come out, check them out, give them some support. They'd love to have you out here.
モータースポーツで得た高度な技術をすべてのレイズホイール一本に込める魂は永遠に変わらない。ビヨンドザレボリューション。ザ・コンセプトイズレーシング。
Link is the engine management solution for champions the world over. We know what it takes to win, pushing boundaries, performing under pressure, and having the best people on your team. Our tech support are performance specialists, available 24 hours and ready to talk one-on-one about your winning formula. Link ECU. The performance, reliability, and power to get to the podium.
The 20th anniversary of American Time Attack is approaching fast. From the days of import tuning magazines to digital dominance, this thing of ours is here to stay. Tune in to Global Time Attack Finals at Buttonwillow November the 9th and 10th to celebrate where it all began.
That was really cool to see because you actually got to see what the ridge looks like in the dry right before they shot to the Buttonwillow 20th anniversary event that is coming up this year in November. Obviously, night and day difference of what this track looks like from the video where you saw it dry to here in the rain. But it is so exciting, and that actually shows you just how good this track is. I think it rained the year we did that event, too. So that'll just show you the difference between yesterday and today. You could see a completely different track. Even after lunch today, you could see a completely different track.
We got a couple of Porsches out there. We got Lawrence out there running in GTX class, as well as Ray Guerrero. And man, these cars are absolutely gorgeous. I cannot say enough about Porsches and how much I want one so badly. Although I can say this, I probably can't afford this Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, but maybe I can get myself a little something a little on the lower end of the game. But an interesting thing is he's actually going to be running some Yokohama AO 005s and a 330 and a 280 in the front. Car only makes about 485 horsepower, which is, I believe, basically stock. But kind of a cool story where he actually owned a couple of basically street versions, you know, like a GT3 RS or just a GT3, and basically decided, you know what, it's time to step his game up, and decided to go get a 911 GT3 Cup car, which I thought was a pretty awesome thing to do. But I can say this, it'll be very interesting. He's actually in the midst of helping his girlfriend built her E30 for limited class, and she's actually going to be out here doing our lapping days and having a good time with that. Pretty cool little situation, them coming out, and eventually they'll be competing, you know, essentially with each other out on track.
Yeah, I like the ability to do that. I've never been a fan of, for what we do, buying a cup car because it's not a legal car, right?
Agreed. It's not.
But if you ever wanted to buy a track car and you were in that tax bracket, cup cars are the best way.
Oh, absolutely. They're such an amazing car just to go out and just have fun with. Obviously, like you stated, tax bracket being very important statement in that
Any kind of racing, you know, everyone always hates when people bring that up, but whatever you do is tax bracket based, you know. Some people can afford to race Spec Miata, other people can afford to race, you know, Spec E30, other people can afford to race at IMSA level, buy your way in. It is what it is. But cup cars are incredible. There's no bad generation of them. They have they have, you know, maintenance schedules where Porsche just maintains it for you. Done. You do your oil changes and stuff, but they'll do the rebuilds and all that. It's a really cool process. For me, I don't live there, so
yeah, either do I. You know, I've gotten the joy of being able to drive a good friend of mine, James's GT3 car, out on track, and I can't say anything bad about the car. It's just such an amazing car to drive, and it doesn't have that feel. Like a lot of people talked about the GTRs when the Nissan came out with the GTRs, and talked about how it's not that cool of a car because it's a car that drives itself, and the Porsches don't feel that way.
They don't drive themselves. We've seen GTR drivers crash. Everyone who says that has never owned one, and usually they're in their mom's 97 Altima while saying it. But yes, of course, they do have good nannies, and the technology is amazing. But, you know, anyone who... Tony's a great example, Tony Zerka. He had that, he used to say that, you know, the nannies and all that, and then he drove one and spun it because he didn't realize how rear-wheel drive biased they are.
They very much... The cool thing about them is they're very tunable. I had the joy of being able to
It wasn't
drive
a joy. I know where you're going. It wasn't a joy.
Navaris Racing's GTR, and gotten, you know, to help him pick up and try to get that car situated and get that car situated in a good way. And, you know, one of the big things there was just getting the balance situated with the diff and all the other good stuff. So I'm going to throw it over to Cuban. Cuban's going to give us a rundown of all the classes, what they mean, what they're there for, and how we do it.
This guy's making me work. I was trying to drink some water at that exact moment. Thank you, Mark. I will have a dry throat. Yeah, Global Time Attack is full of classes, guys, right? So we have traditional Time Attack classes such as Enthusiast class. Enthusiast class is the entry-level class. We'll get you some descriptions on screen in a few, but it's the entry-level class. These are for HPDE drivers. These are guys who still probably drive their car to and from work or on the weekends. It's still a street car to them. But Enthusiast class is absolutely the place where people are going to want to start and enter Time Attack. The one thing that I can tell you that is hard for people to understand until they race with us is there's no power mods here. You know, it's engine mods are free. It's up to you to make the power happen or put down to the ground with a 220 treadwear tire, a width that's smaller, and no aero mods to make it happen. Now, Street is the first traditional Time Attack class. Street is where it started back in the day. Street, limited, unlimited. Now, this is still a no pro driver class. We still allow, as much power as you want, but no sequentials. It has dog box at best. Moderate aero being 5-inch front splitter. The wing can hang off 5 inches. You can have barge boards. Engine swaps are limited to just what's available from the manufacturer, and you can go plus or minus 2. What I mean by that is if you have a Honda Civic, you can put a J Series in it. If you have a V6 Camaro, you can put a V8 in it. You know what I mean? So those are the legal things. Tire brands are open, 180 treadwear. The first big jump, and this jump has been big, small, big, is limited class. Limited class is an incredible amount of speed can be gained. The amount of aero you're allowed, the front aero box on a limited class car is 14 inches by 10 inches. So the aero can be 14 inches wide and go out 10 inches. The rear wing can hang off, to the moon. These cars are allowed sequential transmissions, but still have to be rod shifted. You still have to shift by hand. It cannot be a paddle shift unless factory. Engine swaps are open. If you're an LS the World kind of guy, this is the class where you go. And you can run any tire with a 60 treadwear or higher. Unlimited would be exactly what it's called, guys. It's unlimited class. This is where the Ferris Cartoumis of the world, the Life Motorsports, these people that come and dominate everywhere they go, this is the class they run in. Pro drivers are allowed. unlimited engine mon. Sequentials can be paddle shifted. Aero is wide open. Engine swaps are open. You can run any DOT slick you want, DOT tire or racing slick that you want. And more than anything in this class, this is where you see people really go. Now, we do have Max Effort. Max Effort is a class where it's what we used to call Pro Comp. This is where people can build themselves the craziest cars they want, but it still has to be based off of a VIN production vehicle. What I mean is, it can't be a cup car. We have a class just for that, but it can't be a cup car. It can't be a Caterham style vehicle. These are cars that have to be VIN based. This is where you see the Justin Bayliss with his rear wheel drive Rabbit with the S2000 motor. This is where we see the beautiful Datsun. It's a 260, isn't it? No, it's a 240. That's right, because it's a better car. That's where we see a Datsun, the LS Datsun 240Z that runs up Pikes Peak. This is where we see all of these vehicles that are just the drivers doing everything to build open. Now, rule-wise, you just have to follow Unlimited. So Unlimited safety, unlimited rules as far as safety and all that go, and you can do whatever you want. There is also a class just after that, which is GTX. This is where the cup cars belong. These is for, created for race cars, OEM production-based cars, factory race cars, program, bodies in white, which, if you don't know, like the Honda Civics that race in IMSA and stuff, you buy them from HPD, it's a body in white. It's a Honda off the production line with no VIN. Open wheel cars still not permitted. We will never really allow open wheel cars here. It's a whole different level of safety requirements. Open wheel cars along with closed wheel cars on track. You make contact with one, the open wheel car is just going up and over on its tin. It's just not a thing. Same thing though, this is pretty open. This is, you bring your production race car, and that's exactly where it sits. So if you're ever wondering where you may fit in, never hesitate to send the rules guys emails. It's rules@globaltimeattack.com. If you're unsure, always read through the rule set, but if there's anything we can help you with, boom. Like what you see right here though, Mark will tell you how actually important this is, but if you ever go off track, you're always going to come in and have them look over your car before you go back out.
Yeah, it's very important, guys. And I will say this. One thing that I really hate to see, and this is just HBD in general, guys will go 4 off, go for a spin, go off into the oblivion, right? They'll pull in and then have someone really quick look at their car. I'm just going to say, this is your life, right? Like, I want you people to understand that sometimes if it's more than just a simple dip, you really need to come in and check the car out yourself. You really should be taking your safety into account and making sure that this is your car's in completely good working order. It's amazing what kind of things can go wrong with a little list of tiny off and rocks and beads and so on and so forth. In this case, we do have our head of tech here, Tony Zerka. He's out there and he can do a quick check and make sure, hey, I just dipped 2 off, or maybe I went 4 off real quick in a braking zone. Nothing big, but did the right thing, came in, just make sure nothing's hanging off the car, making sure that you're not going to impede any other drivers, because that's a big part of Time Attack, right? We'll talk about strategy and how Time Attack, how you need to come in and play the game right to make sure you get things done correctly.
Well, and more than that, the rule at most places, if you spin more than 90 degrees or go 4 off, you got to come in.
True. We
tend to ignore the spin 90 degree thing if you keep it on the pavement. You know what I mean? But anything more than 2 off, the car just has to be checked. What Mark just said. If you're not really looking at it, we have literally seen things like rocks wedge themselves in calipers, and these are things you may see Tony walk around it for quick. I've been on the grid, in places. We don't just walk around and look and walk away. We're looking for specific things. We also don't want your diffuser to fall off and damage the car behind you, because you're just going to cause bigger issues that way. So it's really important that they come in and get checked out, but it's just a little nuance of what's going on. Now, it is great. He is back out there on track. It does look like Ray Guerrero is very comfortably doing a 224 in his beautiful GT2 Club Sport, but Lawrence Yun did a 156.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's moving out here in the rain. That's someone who has some confidence. Now, obviously, Lawrence Yun is the one that had to come in and get the car checked, but he just, after a quick spin and going back out, he just racked out a 204. So he's obviously very comfortable in that Porsche.
I mean, he is shooting for a 135 in the dry.
True, and that is crazy fast. Now, speaking of the difference between comfortable and uncomfortable, not in a negative sense, but I believe you had a chance to speak with someone who's done very few laps here, just finished building their car, and is just hoping it stays together at this event. What was his name?
Oh, man.
Yeah, put you on blast. Here we are, guys. I'm going to shoot you over to Mark, speaking with the owner of
Mitchell
this.
Huey.
The owner of this beautiful DA Integra.
Wait. I thought you were talking about Mitchell.
No, I'm talking about the DA Integra, my friend.
Oh, man. Sorry. Maxwell. Danny Maxwell.
So he spoke with Mr. Maxwell, and this car was put together last minute, ready to go out. And it's great to see, a privateer that just does it on the side, able to get a car together. So we'll shoot over to that interview with the Integra so you guys can see the difference between someone who's got the time in the car versus someone who's just ready to try to make it rip.
Heck yeah. I'm here with Danny Maxwell and his DA Integra. This thing's turbocharged, and it's freaking awesome. Give us some details on this turbocharged K-Series.
Yeah, so it's a 1991 DA Integra hatchback, obviously. It was turboed over the last about 6 weeks, dynoed on Monday, and we're here today testing it out. So it's a wholly untested setup, bunch of big brake parts, everything I've made myself, with the exception of the roll cage. So otherwise I've had some help along the way, and mostly done it myself. So we're gonna see what it can do.
When you say do it yourself, how are you able to do this yourself?
I run a company on the side. I have a CNC machine, a Haas, and my company name is Maxwell Motorsport or Maxwell Manufacturing. You can look me up on Instagram.
So that's awesome. You're able to make your own parts for your race car on a CNC machine and really get this thing perfect and how you really want it to be. That's pretty awesome. So you've been out in the wet today during the practice day. How are you expecting this car to be able to handle tomorrow back in the wet and then go Sunday when it's going to actually be in the dry?
Right, yeah, as long as the car stays together, I think we have a good chance. I'm kind of putting that on my shoulders. It's my car, so I push it a lot harder than my co-driver, but I think the wet always helps you become a better driver, so fingers crossed that it's given me some good skills and not some bad habits.
Sounds good. We can't wait to see it out on track.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So he hit the nail right on the head there, right? Getting out there in the wet makes you a better driver. Just like you said before, Cuban.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there is something, and he's, this is the first turbo car he built, but I hope he learns quickly that you really should put a filter on that turbo. It just, you never know when you're going to suck something up and just completely grenade that thing.
Maybe it's just because we come from Southern California, where places like Willow Springs, and
dirt,
all the
dust, rocks.
Yeah.
It's all rocks. We had competitors that used to run screens. It doesn't matter. You got to have an intake in it because you can't put a filter right on it. You starve it.
Yeah.
So you got to build an intake tube. It's got to give velocity. And I get why he didn't, because there's really nowhere. There is, but in his head, there's nowhere easily to route an intake that wasn't hot.
And like you said, he's been spending the last 3 months every night trekking hard in his garage to get that car ready. So probably just ran out of time.
100%, and that we both know that's exactly what happens out there, but it's really cool. He's someone who has a day job but started his own side business manufacturing parts, and we actually had to finagle it out of him because he was too humble to want to talk about it. But it's great to see that out there, and hopefully the time he spends absolutely gets him the results he's looking for.
Yeah, and if you guys want to check out his machine shop business, he's Maxwell Motorsports. Runs a CNC shop on the side, and it helps him, get this Integra up and ready and get it paid for. So, hey, shoot the guy some business. He's also another car guy, so he's absolutely going to understand your love, passion, and the thing that you're looking for to build in your car.
Now, these drivers, they've basically been here till the end of the first session. We're going to have the GTA lapping group from like 11:20 to 11:35. We'll shoot up the schedule here for you in a second so you can see it. But we're out there going off. Now, the cool part about this, and hopefully the rain has stopped, this is going to be great. And if it doesn't stop today, hopefully it's later or tomorrow, Lone Star Drift actually drifts this track. They have their drift paddock out there, but they get to drift the track. Ridge is such a cool facility that allows you to send these people up. But we just finished Time Attack Session 1 from 11:20 to 11:35. We'll have the lapping group. Then we'll have Time Attack Session 2 and Lone Star Drift. For those of you watching, the only time we're going to cut this stream is when we go to lunch today and when we go to lunch tomorrow, guys. So we will always make sure we keep you posted with everything going on. Now, once the weather has eased up a little bit, we'll make sure we get some more shots of the drifting going on behind us, of cars out on track. So if you want to know where we're going to be, except from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., we will always be here on this stream. So we'll go out there to the lapping group. They'll go out there and have a good time. We will reset ourselves ready to go back for Time Attack Session 2.
All right, guys, we're back. We got Group 3 going out right now. It's looking a little rough out there, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. You see that big cloud overhead. It is probably going to get worse before it gets better. I was just outside checking out the weather, and, man, we got a big cloud coming towards us, and it's looking like it's going to dump some rain. And another big thing, it seemed like the temperature has changed. It is going down. We got some cooler temperatures out there, along with a lot more wind. With that, I don't exactly see us getting to actual like fast, good lapping here anytime really soon. You can see a little sunlight there. We're hoping that the wind pushes all that right out of here so we can get to some fast-paced action later on in the day. But you're just going to have to wait it out, and I'm betting these guys are really just trying to get acclimated to the track. At the end of the day, they just got to get acclimated, get themselves situated so that tomorrow, when there's supposed to not be any rain, we can actually be in a good situation. We're probably looking at a situation where, again, I'm looking at the weather report right now, and we're probably more looking like 12 to 1 o'clock before the rain really drops down. I think after this big weather storm, weather area comes through, I think then we'll be able to kind of hopefully get to a point where we can get this track dried off. The more people going out there, the lapping, that does help. It moves that water off the track and starts creating that dry line. All we need is that dry line so we can start getting some good lapping there. We haven't seen a lot of the competitors out there today just because, well, when it's weather like this, they can't put down fast lap times and they can't use slicks, and a lot of these guys only showed up with slick tires. So in our Group 3, we have Skylar Johnson in his Subaru WRX just going past us here now. Car looks good. It's a Bug-Eye Subaru not an STI, guys. It's just a WRX. You know, you can't have the whole name. The Subaru Impreza WRX STI. Then we got Charles Lincoln in his Broham Racing Subaru WRX as well. The WRX is out there having a good time in the wet. Always good to have all-wheel drive when conditions are like this. An interesting fact about his car is he's actually owned it since day one. So one of those situations where a guy's out there driving a car that he bought all the way back in the day, back in the good old GD series days, and he bought it in 2005, and from reality, he never actually thought that he was actually going to get into Time Attack with this car. But, like many things, things change, and he went down this rabbit hole of the world of we call Time Attack. It's been a slow progression, though, which is good. The slow progression means he's able to take modifications, put them on the car, and actually see what he can get out of those modifications. It's definitely a good way to go when it comes to progression in Time Attack. It's a lot of times we tend to do a bad disservice to ourselves where we essentially just throw parts at a car and just try to put as much as we physically can on the car because we need to go faster. And a lot of times that can really backfire. You don't get to see the pros and cons of each particular part that we're throwing on the car. So when you do it in this slow, methodical way, you can really get to the point where you understand the car and understand what each part is doing so you can actually understand if it's working out or not. He's going to be competing this weekend in street all-wheel drive, and he's really looking to just better himself. You know, it's definitely one of those things where you have to just progress and grow with the car and grow as a driver. One thing we kind of forget is we generally think that all these guys out here are just tip top, right? They're 100%, you know, racing driver through and through in a grassroots motorsport, where the reality is all these guys are continually growing and trying to just understand the car, the track, and just understanding themselves as a driver. It's a difficult thing. It's like many other things you do in life, right? It takes years to master this craft. It's not something that you can just quickly just jump into and be perfect at. This is something that skilled drivers are constantly learning at every event they go to. And that's something that he's going to be doing, and many of our other competitors are doing all the time. So just kind of give you some understanding, him in street class, he's going to be running a Yokohama Advan AO52 in a 245 size tire. And he's making roughly around 380 horsepower, which is solid horsepower. And around this track is actually going to be a really good situation, especially in the conditions we're currently in. His car essentially is going to be really tailored to this kind of situation we're in with the weather and the track. So I think he's going to end up being in a good situation as we go further. but obviously we're just trying to work it through. He's run currently a 218 in this GD Subaru.
Yeah, I think the bigger issue, though, is even with how tight this track is, as it drives out, power will matter a little bit more and a little bit more. But I think power, for the most part, is to get you up that hill and to get you out of the hole in these low-speed corners. But setting up for these corners and getting them correct is going to be, the best you got going on.
Yeah, and just kind of give you an idea, Skyler in his bug eye is actually doing 213, which, again, pretty stellar. Again, the weather's kind of gone a turn for the worst. So we're actually getting more and more rain down on the track, and you can see right now it is absolutely wet out there. Jennifer Oker in her Subaru as well, doing a 244. She's an unlimited class. I don't know what tire she's actually on at the moment because I highly doubt she's in an unlimited class tire running a set of slicks or something like that. So she's probably running some tires that hopefully she was just able to find from somebody to throw it out there. And also, when you're talking about rocking 650 wheel horsepower around this track, in these conditions, it can be very, very tricky.
Oh, yeah, this is the exact opposite, right? We always talk about how power is everything until it's not. You know what I mean? It's having so much power here without the ability to put it down. That's definitely something that's going to cause issues. But I was a little overly optimistic on how quickly it would calm down. You can actually see now the whole background is turning dark. So it used to be just behind the GTA logo right there. Mark actually caught it before I did. But now if you really look at it, half of this is starting to get dark. So they did say it would get worse before it got better. It's after 10:30. It's barely coming down right now, but I feel like these competitors are about to see another downpour.
Yeah, like we talked about a little bit before. I think we're going to get a big downpour, get a lot more rain. We're seeing a lot more wind. I think we're going to get that, and then hopefully we can work our way through it. And we got the 350Z of Joel Bergman going out right now. He actually went out in the previous session as well. Seems like he's got a lot of confidence in that Z in these conditions, which kudos to him because, man, these are some rough conditions to go out there and time attack in.
These are just rough conditions to go out in general. I mean, anyone who's ever driven on a freeway with, puddling and all that knows how sketchy it feels. Now, try to do that at the fastest rate possible around a track.
Yeah, exactly. We can see that bright color of Jennifer Oker's car coming down the front straightaway as she's throwing a ton of spray up. So in previous times at this track, she showed around 148 miles per hour on that front straightaway. Obviously, we're not seeing that right here at the moment. But she kept her previous lap time, yeah. But 2:44 is her best lap time here in this current session. And just trying to work it way through. I'm assuming she's just trying to get some setup and just obviously get more lap time. She is what most people would say is a hill climb specialist. She does love to go do hill climbs and do various things such as that nature. She's got a lot of driving experience, endurance racing, Lucky Dog, Lemons, Chump Car, and just been all over the West Coast. One interesting thing that she said was Laguna Seca is overrated. What do you think about that, Cuban?
Look, we are all allowed opinions on things, and there are a lot of tracks that others would say are amazing that I feel don't have the nuance. I can absolutely see the argument that Laguna Seca is overrated as far as track layout goes. I can't oversee the fact, though, that it is a world-renowned track, and it has such nuance with, we all talk of the corkscrew, but what about turn one? It's a little downhill. It's a little off camber. What about the kink leading up to the corkscrew? Very high speed, make or break that small section. That's what sets up all the passes in the corkscrew. I would never say it's overrated. Maybe it's overrated to drive to some people, but to watch racing in, I don't think I can agree with that.
Yeah, I will say the time I went there, it was definitely a track that I had on my bucket list of tracks I wanted to try out and hit. and it did not disappoint me. I thought the track was everything I thought it would be. Probably the most disappointing part about the track, in my opinion, was I thought I'd be able to see more of the track from the pit area, and that was probably one of the most disappointing factors. But I will say this, if you're willing to huff it around, there are some amazing spots throughout the track that really give you the opportunity to see the various cool parts of the track, such as the corkscrew and so on and so forth. And just looking out our window here, it is covered in rain. Looks like it's coming down harder and harder as
No,
we
you
speak.
can actually see it on the camera. That big cloud is finding its way over. It's going to be a rough one for the competitors. Obviously, that's always the risk you run doing anything in the Pacific Northwest, track days, events. It's never going to hinder us from showing up. It's never going to stop us from giving these guys the opportunity to go out here in competition, and hopefully it just it clears up as fast as possible. It's the weather, it's up and down. Could have been as early as 10. Now we're thinking it'll be around 1-ish, maybe 2. So
Yeah.
Either way, they should have a great competition day tomorrow also.
Kudos to Skyler here, though. He's running a 2:10, which his previous best lap time was a 1:53. So he's actually looking really good for when this thing dries out and being able to put down a better lap time than he's ever expected, I would imagine. He's not that far off his pace, which, again, I think we saw Lawrence Yoon. He was still like 30 seconds off his previous lap time best or something more.
It was pretty far. It was 30-35.
Yeah, so I mean, Skyler's looking really good to try to improve his lap time in the dry when we get to that point. Hopefully tomorrow, more likely. There we were able to see a good representative lap time by Bergman there in his 350Z. 2:30.
It's actually pretty cool, though, to know that 6 drivers went out. One of them never set a flying lap. Meng Chi Cheng went out, triggered timing and scoring, but then had to come in for some reason. But it's really cool to see that we still have 5-6 people going out. No one's saying they're trying to set their fastest lap, but they're trying to go as fast as they can on track, because that is going to lead into the confidence in the dry to be able to really push the vehicle.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see things like, this gives us a good opportunity to kind of do a little bit of comparison between, driver and car. You got something like John here with his 350Z, and then John here with his Corvette, and Joel with his 350Z, and look at it. You're talking a 230.527 and 230.585. So very, very close lap times between the two individuals in very starkly different cars.
Makes you ask the question, though, does it stay that close if it wasn't raining?
Exactly, right?
It's cool to see. It's cool to see Skylar Johnson, though, in the enthusiast class car, just did a 209.
Oh yeah, see, right? He just kept pushing the limit, kept doing what he did, and I think these are going to pay huge dividends when we get into the dry.
Oh no, I agree. And he was pretty consistent, right? He did a 213, a 210, a 210, a 218, and then a 209. So
he had to cool those tires down, right?
I feel like just going down the straight does that. I feel like that's someone who, though, has lap times here. That's someone who's driven here before, which we both know is true. So he's confident. Now, I don't know if he's a local, a native, or anything like that. It may just be, he's got confidence because he's driven here before, or he's been here in the rain before also, so he knows what to expect.
Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with a bright orange GT3. It
pretty.
did look like we were getting close to getting that drone out there, guys. But as you can tell, the one cool thing we have going on is the weather is passing quickly. Those clouds that, you know, we're barely on the left side of the screen have already gone up and over. We're starting to see some sunshine through the area right there. So obviously there's nothing much we can do here about this portion of the weather. But once it gets dry, it's going to go fast. But I still think that Lone Star drifts the track in the rain.
You think so?
I do think so, yeah.
Man, that'd be a wild ride in a drift car. I will say this. I will give those guys a ton of credit if they go out there on the track, drift this thing up with this rain the way it is. It's going to be, I imagine it's going to be super slick in all the places where they're going to need that grip.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Now, they did throw the checkered flag on these drivers, so everyone is going to be coming in, and we'll be seeing if another run group comes out. It's getting cold out there, Mark. It is. I walked out really quick to see what was going on during the lapping group, and it was the first time we've been here all weekend where I felt I wish I had my sweater on.
Yeah, you know, I was lucky enough to walk into the Ridge Motorsport Park, into their souvenir shop, and find
I found you that sweater. Don't say
jacket.
I. Don't say I. This guy's going to try to take.
Cuban found it, but I definitely tried it on.
It was both of our size, and I figured Mark wanted it more than I did, and I was like, all right, dude. See, we're the same size. He's taller, I'm rounder. So it's just how it works out. But no, it's really nice out here. Luckily, you know, thanks to our good friend Ramel at Moto Lyric, you need to make more sweaters.
Yes, you do.
I'm always covered when we come to the track, but it is rainy out here, guys. Now, what we do have going on is it looks like we're getting ready to send the next run group out. They're finishing up what they got going on here.
Got Kasem Farm there in the Porsche GT3 RS. Absolutely beautiful car. I really hope that he ends up trying to take it out there and just get some experience out here on this track and in the wet. I know he has some prior experience, but this is his first year competing in Time Attack in the U.S. So, you know, he's got to get out there and start just kind of dicing it up a bit and seeing what it's all about, even if it is in the wet.
モータースポーツで得た高度な技術をすべてのレイズホイール一本に込める魂は永遠に変わらない。ビヨンド・ザ・レボリューション。ザ・コンセプト・イズ・レーシング。
Link is the engine management solution for champions the world over. We know what it takes to win, pushing boundaries, performing under pressure, and having the best people on your team. Our tech support are performance specialists, available 24 hours and ready to talk one-on-one about your winning formula. Link ECU. The performance, reliability, and power to get to the podium.
The 20th anniversary of American Time Attack is approaching fast. From the days of import tuning magazines to digital dominance, this thing of ours is here to stay. Tune in to Global Time Attack Finals at Buttonwillow November the 9th and 10th to celebrate where it all began.
It really is lucky to see these places in the dry like that. And I'll be honest with you, Mark, you saw it. I really hope these competitors get more dry time than they do wet time, because this track is just so incredible to drive. And to give the cheeky nod to all you watching and tuning in right now, you saw that we're having the 20th anniversary of Time Attack at Buttonwillow this year at GTA Finals. That's huge for us. To think that it's been 20 years of Time Attack. I am 37 years old. Notice I told you I had to ditch high school senior year to see it. The numbers are lining up, Mark. They're lining up. But it's, you've been there the whole 20 years. You haven't been competing the 20 years, but we were there. We saw it happen. We were blessed to see things like Sierra Evo and the Cyber Evo in person. So
back when magazines were a thing and you actually had to wait months for it to come out.
Yeah, and then they forget who's in the top 10 of the fastest cars at Buttonwillow.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
But truth be told, it's great that we've been celebrating and doing this sport for so long, and it's surreal for me, to be honest with you, because I have obviously people associate the GTA stream with me, but that's not what this place is. I was a fan long before I ever worked with these guys, so it's surreal for me. I know it's surreal for you, so it's just super cool to be out here and being able to really cover and do all of this.
Yeah, it's definitely something that 20 years in the making of Time Attack, right? It's something that I think at Time Attack, something that is a little lost on the fans is the history portion. You get these guys who kind of join up and they're brand new, and I think that's something that we really need to bring to light, and that's something we should really work on as we get into the 20th year at Buttonwillow. So hopefully we can put something together that kind of really just pushes that knowledge and understanding of how we've been doing Time Attack for 20 years at an amazing event at Buttonwillow, all the way back to Super Street days, the really bring in the people that played those key player points to make all this stuff happen, because all those people behind the scenes really don't get the recognition that they really deserve.
Well, a lot of them don't do it for recognition anyways, you know what I mean?
Agreed.
There's always like, I never want to be the thing that associates you with the sport. Just listen to my voice, but forget who I am. You know what I mean? It's this, because this sport is not about any of us. It's about the drivers.
It is absolutely about the drivers. I love that you say that, because that is exactly what I believe, and that is exactly what I think is the most important thing. The organizations are cool, everything of that nature, but I will say this, it's all about the drivers. The drivers are the thing, and the people and everything to this sport. They're the ones that are making it happen. They're the ones that put their entire life into these cars to bring it out here. And whether or not they're the greatest driver in the world or not, they still are putting the effort in to come out here and push their cars to the best of their abilities.
You don't have to talk about yourself like that, Mark. We know you're not the greatest driver of all time.
Just saying, I could technically have the fastest Subaru in the world.
Stop. You could,
if I put a different driver in there.
It is really cool, and I think you're right, though. I think we had a 20, 30, 35 minute conversation outside of the tech area yesterday about historic events just in our time in Time Attack, and there were people listening to us that had never heard those stories, and I don't expect anyone to know about 2018 GTA Finals when X happened, or 2016 Road Atlanta. Like, I don't expect you people to know that, because not everyone is weird like me. But it's just cool that people can learn that they're in they're becoming part of the history of a sport that is technically so new. 20 years is nothing. There's racing going on, road IMSA style racing's been going on for 30, 40, 50 years in this country, under different names, Grand Am and this and that. So this is a very, very young sport, especially in the age it's in now. Global Time Attack is not 20 years old. Buttonwillow's 20 years old,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's absolutely crazy to think things like Pikes Peak have been going on for as long as they have. I don't know the actual number of how many years they've been going and doing it, but
they just broke their 100th anniversary, I thought.
Yeah, I thought that was a year or two ago.
So 102?
Yeah, let's go 102. I'll say it. 102 years in the making. I mean, it's just wild. It's absolutely insane.
It was first held in 1916.
Yeah, I can't do public math, so I'm not even gonna try. But
there were years it wasn't ran though. That's why it's not 108. You know what I mean? But it is really cool that goes on.
Like Pikes Peak is one of those things to me where I love to see and like watch the old videos of like Reese Millen and these guys going way back in the day. And you start looking at the fact that it didn't used to always be paved. You know, when you tell someone now that, hey, this didn't always used to be paved.
Yeah, they also used to allow motorcycles to go up. They banned bikes a while back because just the safety.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's you don't have to know the history to love this sport. It's just I feel like every driver who has been doing it long enough that wants to end up learning the history tend to be the better drivers because they're more emotionally attached to it more than anything. I mean, I'm emotionally attached to talking about it, and that's not even just on stream. That's just people. I annoy people at every event I go to because they'll ask me a question. I'll have a 32-minute answer, and it doesn't make sense to me either. I can't remember a birthday to save my life, but I could tell you every standing record at every track we go to on the calendar, and that's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. You know, I wish I had the ability to remember stuff like that. You know, I struggle to remember my name some days, so that's always a bit of a struggle for me.
I used to make fun of people and tell them it's because their parents, bro, they have too many things on their mind, and I hope that's untrue now.
Ooh, yeah. Congratulations,
dude.
Big Dog, by the way.
Hey, yeah. Hey. I think it's just more along the lines that I don't want to turn into that guy that forgets all that stuff.
Yeah, it definitely can happen. I mean, it's one of those situations where I try to remember as much as I can, and I have my emotional attachment to different things, and that's what definitely carries me through and allows me to remember certain things I love. We got kick some fun.
I really do love that orange on that GT3.
I do too.
It's one of those, orange isn't everyone's color by any means. It's like the Camaros, the 6th gen Camaros that came in that shock yellow with the black hood.
Yeah.
That's hot, dude. And that color itself is hot. We actually ended up powder coating a Corvette owner's brakes that color.
Really?
It just pops, dude. It pops.
So we got Mitchell Huey topping the charts here. We obviously talked to him a little bit earlier, and he was giving us some information about his Zebulon rear wing that actually was the first one to be fitted to a VA chassis, which is pretty freaking awesome. And he's going through running a 214 currently. He's actually going to be shooting in the drive for hopefully a 146, which we really hope he gets there as well. Because, well, let's take a quick gander at... Okay, Cuban, I'll throw it out to you. What's the record in that street all-wheel drive?
Street all-wheel drive, brother man, is a 146 240. It's held by our boy Johnny Hernandez. Now, if I'm not mistaken, though, your boy with the Zebulon wing is trying to do a 46 flat.
Yes, he has to.
Well, no, he could do a 46 239.
I mean, yes, but
I'm just throwing out. This is why records don't matter and championships do, because records can always be broken.
Oh, let's get into this topic.
No, that's a later topic. That's why people are racing and fighting each other. I don't want to fight with you right now. But yeah, that's Johnny Hernandez, who we once again, for those of you that are just tuning in, who've been with us for a long time, will actually be debuting his new car. He finally sold the Subaru after many years of always being in the top 4 or 5. He spent 3 or 4 years taking podiums at GTA finals. And I think this is where it's hard for me, right? Because I think that if he kept pushing himself in that chassis, he would have just ended up on the top of that podium. But it was just so many years of 333. And of course, I think the last time he ran the car, the motor actually did have a catastrophic.
It did.
Which is the running joke with Subarus to us, but he actually had a very reliable car. Yeah. He didn't push it to the limit. God, this song is stuck in my head every time I say that. He didn't push the engine to the limit. He just built something around the 550 mark, and it just was.
Well, I think later on I think he ended up with 2 engine blowups at the very end, and I think it was because he pushed it to that 600 mark.
The back to back that would hurt. So, but instead of quitting the sport, because he drove here, he came to Atlanta. It was a family thing for him. That's another thing for those of you why I always tell you to come out and watch in person. These are family events. He always bring his wife and his 2 kids, and it was so cool. But he didn't race last year at all, or this year at all, and we found out that he had bought an FL5 Type R, and he is now starting to develop and drive that chassis. We'll probably see him enthusiast at GTA Finals this year, but you know Johnny, he can't live in enthusiast class. It's just not his way of life.
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what he ends up coming up with in terms of how he's going to develop the car, what kind of basically philosophy that he's going to end up going into, because that easily could be hey, I want to try to maximize horsepower, let's try to utilize as much aero as possible. Like you said, maybe he'll be an enthusiast. Hell, maybe he'll be in street class. It's kind of one of those things of whatever he wants to put his foot down and say, hey, this is where I'm willing to go. I mean, budget might be some sort. I mean, it's always been slightly budget conscious with Johnny, I believe, but it's definitely one of those
Family man.
Yeah,
He's a family man.
absolutely.
You make the most of what you have, and that's the cool part about the lower levels of Time Attack. Look, you're not going to build an unlimited car with a budget, and you're not going to build a limited car with a budget, but you can absolutely innovate your way into a street class car.
100%.
And for those of the people saying that, you have to spend X, budgets are relative, guys. You're working on a race car here. You're not going to expect to make a competitive car with $5,000, okay? This is not you're not going to expect to make a nice fishing setup for $5,000, guys. I'm sorry, that's just real life. You just make do with what you have. But if you have good knowledge and a proper, stipends every month you could spend on the car, save budget-wise, then yeah, man, you could truly innovate your way into a very fast street class car. And I actually, this may be a hot take, but I think that it's easier to innovate your way into an all-wheel drive car than it is a front-wheel drive car.
Really?
Yes, but I think rear-wheel drive is the easiest place to step into and be able to, because, and the rules are changing for 25. People are going to hate us for this, but the two-wheel drive classes being allowed to run a 295 is an advantage that just you can't look over. You know what I mean? And sure, it went to 295 because that was the proper size the 052s came in. They didn't have a 285. But now we're making the rules. It's a overall width now for two-wheel drive chassis.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. Didn't
It's
you
an
guys put out a
overall
preliminary.
It's
look at
in the
this?
rules now, just so people can see it. It says
Yeah.
for 2025, but this allows people to actually run factory staggers on cars. Like, let's say you bought a car and it had a 315 265 combo, and you set your car up around that. Well, you could technically run that. These are facetious numbers, by the way. I don't want someone calling me and being like, "He said I could run a 315."
Anything said in the announcer booth is not for
this
rules.
Is,
okay,
it is
guys?
not. It is not. This is not Cuban, the tech steward. This is Cuban, the MC. But it would allow people to run staggers like that. You know what I mean? And this still gives the benefit to the FF guys to run the reverse stagger. You can run a bigger tire, but it will be a static 295. It's the biggest thing is, imagine you're in a car that can run 295 square.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's you every advantage an all-wheel drive guy had who has to run a smaller tire
265
is taken away.
Yep.
Right? So I think we're going to see people really have to spend some thought process on trying to re-engineer their vehicle. But there's a lot of people out there that would love to run a factory style stagger and set their car up around it, but you know what I mean? Like, but the rear would have been a step too big, but the front is so much smaller. But I don't think the static size is going to be 295, though. I'm just going to let you know that. That's just so you understand. So the 315 thing probably wouldn't happen, but this will still just allow people to use a bigger wheel on the drive tire if they wanted to. But truth be told, at the end of the day, you and I both know that built at the highest level right now, minus maybe unlimited, the all-wheel drive guys are actually on the back foot in street because of the tire difference,
And I agree, because that was something that I saw when those rules changed. I immediately saw that coming from an all-wheel drive philosophy, I saw that as a huge deficit to the all-wheel drive guys, where I was like, man, that's going to be really hard. And don't get me wrong, you heard it for years leading up to this, where the rear-wheel drive guys continually argued that they were at a deficit to the all-wheel drive guys.
And they were, though. They were. Absolutely. It's always a balancing act.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the thing is, yes, we all know that it's 10 mil, 285, 295, but we can all together look at a 295 from a brand and then a 285 from the performance brands. It's like 18 to 20 millimeters, guys. You know what I mean? My 235 AO52s that were on the rear of my FK8 were wider than the 255 Michelin PS4s I bought for a customer by like 9 or 11 mil, dude. Like,
wow.
So we all know that these brands build their tires for their own measuring purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, the biggest thing we're trying to do is just make sure that it's as balanced as possible.
Yeah, and it's definitely a difficult game. The rules game is something that people really don't give enough credit to the people making the rules. There has to be a lot of thought that goes into these rule sets to make sure that, they can be anywhere near appropriate for what we're trying to accomplish and give the best amount of competition to all these guys. Because I will say, just like anything else, coming from a competitor's perspective, it can be very frustrating where you really want to, run X thing or do X, Y to your car, and the rules kind of prohibit that. And especially when you look across, at the different drivetrains, and you can say like, well, they can do that, and that's helping them out exponentially more than it's helping me out. But I will
There's
say,
an argument that I give every single person, and it's not the nicest thing to hear, but here's what I tell everyone. You choose the chassis you want to run. Not every car is going to be the same as everybody else. Like when people hit us with niche vehicles that's very hard for them to fit within rule sets, not every car is a time attack car. We want you to compete with what you like, and we want you to drive what you want to drive. But you have to understand that if you want to race your C8 Corvette, you can't run Enthusiast. Okay? You can't make every single vehicle fit in every class. We are a very inclusive series, but we also have very exclusive rules. You know what I mean? This isn't no one here is racing for participation trophies is the best way to put it. If you come to GTA events, you know, and you have spent time and money on it, you're here to win. Now, obviously people come to really get the itch and to develop themselves, but even those people want to win.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I will say probably one of the biggest communities that I've seen in that same kind of ballpark, Miata, right? The Miata guys really come hard in the community of time attack and say like, we can't run our cars in time attack. There's no way we can be competitive. You need to make the rules more conducive to our cars. And you definitely hear that a lot. I mean,
there are series for those guys, and
yep.
Like I said, this is no trash on anybody. Mark brings up Miatas because he's just sold his. He's trying to get out of the niche where people think he does hair on the side. But the truth of the matter is, you know, you have to do the best with whatever chassis you want to run. There's no reason that you should, there's no reason that you should buy a car without the thought process of would it work in the series.
Yeah, if you're trying to build a car.
It's the same as people who run SCCA, NASA, and Time Attack. You have to choose whichever series you're more serious about and build it around that, then just run whatever class it fits in the other ones. You don't ask the other ones to change for you. You built the car for X.
Yep.
So Y and Z are just going to be, you run what you brung and have a blessed day.
Yeah, and I will say this, right? And just throwing it out there, Cuban's going to hate on me in 2 seconds.
Nope.
So if you happen to listen to my podcast, the Perfect Lap Podcast, you're going to hear me probably, and you've probably also heard in any of my driver introductions, the Supra, right? Supra is a very interesting car because it's come out. Jackie Ding has made this car incredibly popular, and I'm going to give credit to Jackie Ding for this because...
No, you don't give credit to him for making it popular. It's because he developed his more than anyone else in the world. The only reason that the A90 is where it's at in the time attack world right now is because the years Jackie Ding spent going through the hell of the vehicle. You know what I mean? Him and AMS. Before that, like any tuner would tell you when it first came out and it was unlocked, the ECU was locked, you couldn't even read the tables. The tables would be names. Like I've talked to tuners like these guys were literally just trying to make it happen with whatever they could. And yeah, the A90, but you know what? The A90 is not undefeatable. That's the thing.
Agreed.
We used to argue this when the A90 first came out. Remember it failed all the time? There'd always be electronic issues, traction issues, and all that before the tuning got good. Well, that's the downside of buying something that's off the shelf, ready to go, versus something that's tried and true. There were the days where the A90s were just having trouble putting down laps, but now they got it figured out.
I remember Jackie Ding pulling into the hot pits every 2 seconds and them having to pull off the battery terminal, plug it back in. He's going out and doing 3/4 of a lap, pulling in, and they're just fighting back and forth with that car. He had huge teething issues with that car, and I mean, I remember him just trying to be able to do essentially a lap, and I was sitting there wondering, I wonder if this guy's ever going to actually be able to put down fast laps with this car. And obviously, history is what history is, right? So we've been able to see how well he's been able to put down laps and the amazing lap times that he has to have. So I will say, big kudos to Jackie Ding in developing that A90. And I will say this, what do we see from that?
Well, I'm actually going to take it a different way because it shows like the flow of it. We see a lot more of them. Yep. What have we seen more of in the last 3 years than anything? Porsches.
Oh, yeah.
There was always one or two at an event, right?
Yep.
But now we're at the flow where, guess what, guys? GT3 Porsches do their job incredibly well. Guess what, guys? GT2 Club Sports do their job incredibly well. So now you got guys who are willing to buy a vehicle that gives them a competitive advantage, but it's not necessarily everything. Like a GT3 Porsche is in limited class, right? Well, man, take a vehicle like Ben Denker's Evo when it's complete. That's just, that GT3 Porsche went from being the machine to, just another cog in the wheel, because there's a full limited build here.
Yep.
But at the same time, they do their job well, and they just, you don't have to go through teething issues, and you don't have to do everything else. So we're in the Porsche era right now, and if you really look at it, it was S2000s into S2000s for a long time as far as real drive cars goes.
Yeah, in the Timetech world.
It was S2000s for a very long time, and then it kind of was just open to the world. We were seeing FA5s do a lot of work for the front wheel drive guys. We were seeing the here and there Miata even. We were seeing the Super Miata or Ryan Passy with his V6
Hyper Miata.
Yeah, it was V6 swap Miata. That guy flies. So
He'll be back.
I know we seen it. He is very close to being done. And then, boom, we went right back into fads with the A90, and the A90 has held for a very long time. Now, the all-wheel drive community has always had the STI fad. I'm sorry, it is what
and
it
Evo?
is.
Evo?
Yeah, well, Evos are kind of less and less because they're just not as common. They didn't make as many of them. And it's not because they're not better, dude. Don't even start. I will literally, how dare they have motors that stay together?
I've seen enough of them on fire to know that's not a true statement.
I'd see someone was in the motor necessarily, you know what I mean? So this transfer case that doesn't hold, actually. Let's be real with each other here. But we're going through that right now. So the cool thing is, though, you're not necessarily seeing the next fad cause the old one to go away. So
True.
if that's what it takes to get more people in to enjoy it, so be it. I live for it. And it's not just here. It's anywhere that, does support Time Attack in its purest form. If that's what's going on with it and they keep getting the cars, that's all that matters. Keep it alive.
Agreed. I mean, the more cars out here, the better. And I know some of the Time Attack purists per se will kind of go down that weird road of, we can't have these Porsches out here. That's not Time Attack. And don't get it twisted. I'm in the boat of this. If you show up with a Toyota Supra, or you show up in a Porsche GT3, and you show up as a white Porsche or white, anything, and without a livery, without anything, without any customization, you're boring. I'm just going to say, I don't, that's boring to me. If you're going to show up to this track and you're going to be in Time Attack, I need some variety. I need some livery. I need some pizzazz. I need some arrow off.
Hey, at least he shows up, dude. That's all I'm saying, Mark Yeager.
I'll give him the show up, but man, give me some love. Give me some Time Attack spirit.
People have to just get into it. You know what I mean? People have to understand that it takes time to get in there and to want to be a part of it. So those people that show up with white Porsches have eventually done work to their cars,
I get that, but I'm gonna keep my statement of show up, bring me a badass livery, make it look cool, and some people don't like the sound of a Porsche going on the front straight, but I love it. I think it's a beautiful sound. That thing coming in hot, and sometimes louder is better. I mean, we like you, Cuban.
Man, it's crazy at home. I don't speak. No one ever believes me, dude, until they come to my house. Look, bro, at the end of the day, I'm unforgettable, and, Super Street wouldn't have forgotten me.
Ooh, man. I think the problem was I'm just too average of a white guy.
Listen. Now you're talking about your lack of privilege, guys. This is not what this show is for, sir. I do think, though, that the sun is starting to come out. It's getting much brighter outside. This window is large, so I noticed it very quickly, but Lawrence Yun did a 51.
That's impressive.
Yeah, Lawrence Yun
Hugely
on his
impressive.
first flying lap did a 151. He really is comfortable in that car.
Yeah, he is.
We were getting messages from Timing and Scoring and the safety guys telling us this guy is flying right now. And for someone who's chasing a 135, you said 135, right?
Yeah.
For someone who's chasing a 135 in the dry, I think he's going to have to get it in the wet. He's going to have to really have the confidence in the car.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, too, about that is he's in GTX class, which technically speaking, we don't have a record for.
We
right?
do not. So for those of you guys, there are two classes that are non-traditional Time Attack classes, which are Pro Comp and GTX. Their times don't go to the overall record to us.
Correct.
So the overall record is held by Cable Rosenberg in his 9-liter car from 2021. It was a 137.0.
Team Naturally Aspirated.
Team Natural Aspirated Racing, and I like to make it clear it's the 9-liter one because now every time you mention Cable, they think it's his twin turbo car. By the way,
See, I always think of the naturally aspirated, beautifully sounding
it's because
one
you
every time.
No, the twin turbo one sounds better too.
Does it?
You weren't at Ascend, baby.
Oh.
I also saw it for a year every day. You know what I mean? So,
Lucky.
the twin turbo one sounds amazing, but that's what you have to build these days to beat Ferris. That's all I'm saying.
Agreed.
Yeah,
And I love the fact that Cable recognized that. And, you know, he's not a slouch. He's like, hey, you know what? I know that this needs to be done. Because a lot of people could have rested on those laurels and just been like, you know what? This car's a complete badass, and everyone loves it, and I'm just going to keep it and just drive it. And he said no.
But that car had won a bunch of NASA championships, too.
Agreed, yeah.
That's the thing. That's what it was
Cable's
for. Now,
done a lot of
now
work
he
in that
builds
car.
the twin turbo one for Time Attack, and now he's working on aero stuff. He's working with companies for the aero. Trust me, it'll be
Yeah.
crazy. I don't want to spill his entire beans. It's not my job. But the fastest car around here, so Cable's overall, Time Attack record of 137. The fastest car around here is actually a 131.421. But that was with a Store WF1. Store spells STOHR. If you've never seen one of those, I highly recommend looking it up. It is just a purpose-built, like single-seater style race car, LMP style car.
Yeah, those LMP cars are just above and beyond, obviously, and that's why we have these classes. Like, we used to have Pro Comp, now we have GTX class, to give those guys an opportunity to come out here, race amongst us, and have a good time, show us what they can do. But like Cuban said, they don't go towards the Time Attack records because what would you see the real rationale behind that is? Because I have my own thought.
I will tell you, I was not part of the decision making on that necessarily. I think we as an organization agreed on it without ever speaking. But what is Time Attack? It is a VIN based vehicle built for Time Attack classes. It needs to be a production car off of a production line with a VIN. Now, the reason I say all those things because you can get a body in white that used to race in World Challenge, and that's a production car off production line, but it's a body in white. It's not VIN based. It was never sold to the public. It was built without the sound deadening in it and all that stuff that you would get on a car. This is a car that was built to race. Okay. So at the end of the day, it needs to for it to be a overall Time Attack record, it has to be a Time Attack classed vehicle. GTX are factory race cars, and Pro Comp are cars that the body, the vehicle was based off a production car, but like look at the 240Z. That thing it's a tube chassis.
Yeah, exactly.
So how would we allow that to ever hold a record in a Time Attack series?
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense, and I completely agree with that sentiment. I don't believe that those should be allowed in the quote Time Attack classes. That I think that would really tarnish Time Attack as a whole, because it's so much more difficult to take these actual VINed chassis and make them into these race cars that these guys are, versus if you start with essentially building your own tube chassis car that you can put the connection, the suspension points anywhere you want, and you can build it all very spec and have it be perfect for racing as a whole, versus if you take an Evo and you have to make it into this amazing race car that has to go around the track as fast as possible. I think those are two very different things.
Yeah, so everyone's going to have their own thing. It's the same reason why the strictness of the rules, it gets the competitors. You've been affected by it.
Yep.
Everyone, we understand the passion and the love in racing, so we know why people get so adamant about things.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why you have to be strict about the rules, because if the records matter to you this much, the rules have to matter even more, because what's a record if the rule wasn't followed, So
Agreed.
He's also been consistent, by the way, though consistency isn't Time Attack, but to be in the rain and to do a 151, then a 152, then a 153, not any significant drop-off, just, probably small mistakes here and there. But for him to just be able to be that close just of every lap since his first lap, that's awesome.
Yeah. A 151, 152, 150. Wow, that is some good driving out there. And it really shows his ability to feel confident in the car, in the wet, and just be able to go do the dang thing. That's super impressive, to be honest. You also have Ray Guerrero out there, and he's actually been inching his way down, actually, from a 216 to a 215 to a 214.
Yeah, Ray is a great driver. He drove Pikes Peak in his Viper. He's competed with us before. And I really think, and this is just me personally, I've never spoken to him about this. I don't have any inside info. I just really think that he's still working his way into this car. The GT2 RS as a whole is probably the craziest vehicle that Porsche ever built. This is their twin turbo monster, right? And then on top of that, this is, it's a GT2 RS Club Sport, just race car. This thing will get away from you. Nothing about this car is there to protect you, This is, you have to drive this thing, and it's not going to GTR itself straight.
Yeah.
So I think that every event has just gotten more confidence and gone faster in the car. When we saw him in that car at Road Atlanta, though, he had an incident with it. Every lap of every session, he was just really picking it up, and that's exciting. It's one of those, when he goes to get it, he gets it. We did see, though, at Ascend that, in the shootout for the money, there's a downside to being like that. He only made it through a couple knockouts at the Ascend Festival when it came to the big money shootout. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
Yeah. You got to be able to set that lap, dude. You only have 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Well, no, it was like 15, 12, and then 10. So, or 12, 10, and 8. Actually, the first one was 12. So it was one of those, it's 5 drivers on track at the same time because it's a shootout. You're only going to have one real clean lap.
Yeah, that must have been a very difficult opportunity.
No, it was hype as can be, my guy.
Well, I'm saying it must have been difficult for the drivers. Like
we don't care. They get the whole weekend to themselves, baby. This is for the money right here,
But that was what was really cool about it, right? So that's something that we can discuss at a later time. But it's one of those situations where you gave them an ample opportunity to get a lot of practice in, to get a lot of understanding of the track.
Yeah, because the shootout was not part of the competition. The records and all that had already been set. The people who won their classes got paid out.
Yep.
That was already done. They had I think what I love the most is we didn't tell anyone how it worked until it was time for them to get in their cars and go. The most exciting part about the very first Ascend is that nobody knew coming in that they were going to have enough tire. They're going to have the ability to do 5 rapid fire sessions in a short amount of time. And you know what? If you had an extra tire and you could get it swapped, you go do it. But the problem was people were swapping tires. And at the very last run, both Cable and Ferris corded their tires. Ferris almost lost it on the lap, and the tire almost blew up. You know what I mean? He wouldn't have been able to make another lap if he lost it there.
Wow.
So I think that was the most exciting thing about everyone that was there that saw it. I mean, it was hype because these guys were told, okay, and you're going to stay on the pit basically for your next session. If you leave to change tires and come back and you're already going hot, you already know the rule. You're waiting 2 laps before we let you out, so you don't impede someone else's lap time.
Man, that's where.
So it's such risk reward. The risk reward was real.
Needed to hire a NASCAR crew to come in there.
Yeah, people think about it. These guys, Ferris after everyone, they have to go get gas. So you're driving over there, you're getting gas, you're making sure that you're not wasting any time whatsoever. Obviously, I think they both got 1 tire change done, but those are rapid fire sessions in fast cars, and it's on a bank. Both of them were eating up the front left. Actually, I mean the front left, the unloaded tire. They were both eating the unload. It had to be that. It has to be it, right? It almost looked like it had a toe out with how it was feathering, but yeah, from the drag. Because as soon as you unload a wheel a little bit, it's gonna toe out. As you compress, toe goes in. Now these are spherical cars, like they're gonna keep their alignment. This isn't like an OEM car with rubber bushings, but it's still that part of the car is still weight jacked less than the outside, so it's gonna drag a little bit.
Yeah, and like I said, that it's very exciting to watch, right? Super, super exciting to watch. But man, for the drivers, that brings in a lot of stress. That brings in a lot of anxiety to that session. But it must have been an absolute joy to watch and actually be there and be a part of more so. So definitely, if you guys are out and about and happen to be in Colorado for Ascend next year, get your butt out there. Check it out, because now you know how this event's going to go down.
Still the only time attack event in the USA, or that I know of, period, that has big dollar payouts, right? The record, the $15,000 for the record still stands, or was it $25,000? The big dollars for the record still stands. It wasn't broken.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No one broke the overall record.
That's right.
It was 25. Yeah, it was 20. We had $25,000 on the line for the record.
Wow. That's a big payout.
The event was willing to pay out $50,000 total.
Looks like,
and they are again next year.
Oh, really? They've already committed?
You know what? It feels like it.
That's a good thing.
So we'll confirm that if it happens again next year, it will be the same. It'll be the same lap. The record was never broken.
That'll be pretty awesome to watch happen. And you still got a lot of wind out there. It looks like it's kind of calmed down from the rain, though. What do you think, Cuban?
I think it's not raining anywhere near as much, but the wind is a lot worse. This is where we're at, and we just ended session 2. I'm sorry, the group session right there. So we're coming very close to, I think, one more run group out here, and then we're out to lunch. Now the good news is, what these guys are going to want is they're going to want to be able to take this hour lunch and actually hope that the weather gets better. So Lone Star Drift will be from 12:40 to 1. That means these are the guys that are going to go. If they do it, will be from 12:40 to 1, and then lunches from 1 to 2. We'll be back though at 2:25 for Time Attack Session 3, and then 4:05 for Time Attack Session 4. Hopefully it has stopped raining by then, because we'll want to be able to get the drone in the air, and we want you guys to see how cool this track is, but also being able to watch the drift guys through this elevation change of a track. Like, you know that popular clip where the guy enters Laguna Seca turn 1 backwards, and you know how much elevation and blindness that is right there. So it's really exciting to see.
Just a reminder, we will be back at 2 o'clock sharp
when we come in, but right now it is going to be Lone Star Drift going out. We are done with the Time Attack sessions. We will make sure we keep this up for you until we go to lunch at 1 o'clock, and we will be streaming again at 2 o'clock sharp, guys. Let's keep our fingers crossed that the weather cooperates so you guys can see some super cool stuff.
And we're going to roll you guys the lap times currently. You got limited class here, and enthusiast class, street class, limited class, and unlimited class, although only one person's gone out in a limited class. Hopefully, again, as Cuban stated, we'll be coming out with some good, not so wet action here after lunch.
モータースポーツで得た高度な技術をすべてのレイズホイール一本に込める魂は永遠に変わらない。ビヨンド・ザ・レボリューション。ザ・コンセプト・イズ・レーシング。
Link is the engine management solution for champions the world over. We know what it takes to win, pushing boundaries, performing under pressure, and having the best people on your team. Our tech support are performance specialists, available 24 hours and ready to talk one-on-one about your winning formula. Link ECU. The performance, reliability, and power to get to the podium.
The 20th anniversary of American Time Attack is approaching fast. From the days of import tuning magazines to digital dominance, this thing of ours is here to stay. Tune in to Global Time Attack Finals at Button Willow November the 9th and 10th to celebrate where it all began.